Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to our City Council meeting. Today is Tuesday, June 20th, 2023. It's approximately 1 p.m. Before we have our Pledge of Allegiance, I'm going to please ask if you'd rise for a brief moment of silence as we reflect back on the brave men and women of the United States Armed Forces as they protect our interests around the globe, as well as the courageous men and women of the Las Cruces Police Department and the Las Cruces Fire Department as they keep our city safe 24/7, 365. Join me in the pledge, please. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Okay, now, as we always start off our meetings with our pets of the week, and Amy D. Felix is on Zoom. So, Amy, are you there? Amy? Okay, so let's go ahead and just jump to jobs of the week. And if Amy comes back, we'll have her show us the pets. So we have, regarding the jobs of the week, is Giselle Palomares from the New Mexico Workforce Solutions. And I see Giselle there. How you doing, Giselle?
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. I'm doing good. How are you doing? All right, for the jobs of this week, are you able to see my PowerPoint?
We can't see it yet.
You can't see it yet. Let me share my screen one more time. I'm sorry. All right, for the jobs of this week, we have City of Las Cruces is hiring a commercial plumber that pays $20.28 an hour. White Sands Missile Range is hiring a security guard, and that pays anywhere between $37,000 to $60,000 a year, depending on experience, and that closes on June 30th. You have the Water Store and More that is hiring a driver or a store customer service team member part-time, and that will pay $13 an hour, and that closes on July 7th, 2023. We have Dearson Charities Incorporation that is hiring a resident monitor, and that pays $19.27 an hour with a $500 sign-on bonus, and that closes August 31st, 2023. We have Pet Boys, who's hiring an automotive technician, and that pays $26,000 to $46,000 a year, depending on experience, and that closes on September 5th, 2023. Amador Health Center is hiring a finance director, and that could pay anywhere between $62,000 to $120,000 a year, depending on experience, and that closes on July 8th, 2023. And as always, to find out more information on these jobs, you can connect with the New Mexico Workforce Connection Office, and you can contact them via phone at 575-524-6250, or visit them at 226 South Alameda Boulevard, or you can always download our app. Today, I'm going to introduce Ms. Haiti Ramirez. She's a Youth Operations Supervisor for our WIOA Youth Program, and she's going to provide you a little bit more information on the program itself.
Good afternoon, everybody. So yes, my name is Haiti Ramirez, and I do serve as a Youth Operations Manager. So really quick, I want to talk about our great program that we are trying to reach for our youth participants. Our ages is for 14 to 24. We do paid work experience. We do many of wonderful things with these youth, career explorations. We do paid and unpaid internships as well. We also do tutoring services, labor marketing, tuition assistance. We do supportive services, incentives for everything that they do. We try to incentivize these participants, and we try to get them supportive services as well as needed. We also do the work readiness and career trainings. You know, we also do workshops and we do serve in-school and out-of-school participants. They do need to qualify for our program with some barriers, but most of the time I can tell you that 90% of the participants that do walk in our doors are qualified one way or another. Like I said, they need to be qualified in our program, and they do have to have some barriers. Some of the barriers that I'm talking about is basic skill deficiencies. Some of them are also English language learners, if they've been into an offender of the juvenile system, if they're homeless or they're runaways or they're in the foster care system as well. Also, if they have any type of disabilities or they have an IEP, that's also some of the criteria and barriers that we are searching for. Pregnant or parenting youth as well. That's about it. Those are the qualifications or the barriers that we are looking for these participants to be able to qualify in our program. And if they're in school, of course, we are required for them to have the documentation needed for them to prove that they're in school as well. And that is our beautiful and wonderful program that we serve our youth within our WIOA program. And these are the youth programs for our participants. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Thank you, Haiti, and that's all we have for this week. Thank you, Mayor and Council.
Okay, thank you, Giselle. Thank you, Haiti. So let's see if Amy DeFelix is on Zoom. Amy, are you there? Okay, so we'll just go ahead and have her next council meeting, of course. So let me just ask if Casey Cunningham is here. If you'd join me up front, please. Just join me here to my right. Nice to meet you. Okay, so a little bit about my email life is I get about 500 emails a day, right? And a lot of it's spam, but a lot of it isn't. And I really try 99.9% of the time to read them all or at least know what they're all about. So I get this email sent in from Kim Sue. And as I'm reading it, I'm thinking, my goodness, I've never gotten an email like this, so I wanted to bring you here to recognize you. Have you read the email? All right. This is from this Kim Sue. My nephew's class wrote a letter about their amazing prison teacher helping their class get their adult GED. So let me just clarify that. So you work at a prison? Yeah, you're not in prison. You work at yeah. And so she works at Southern Correctional? Okay, right. And he thought I could help him contact the local news. The class feels that their teacher, Miss Kayla Cunningham, also known as KC, is the most dedicated and caring teacher who has ever come to the prison facility. This is not a negative email that you hear in the news about felons, but a story about second chances and hope inspired by a teacher. Ms. Cunningham teaches all the subjects. Most of the men in the class have never even completed a 5th grade education. Many had druggy parents and dropped out before they even reached middle school. My nephew was introduced to gangs early on. His own mother died and his father was in prison when he was a boy. So he grew up alone on the streets, and it was easy for the gangs to prey on him and force him into the drug life. To my nephew, he has always hated school and thought subjects were stupid and useless. I haven't talked to him in forever. I got a message that he's about to pass his GED and start college. He is in his 40s and has been running drugs most of his life for the quick and easy cash. He said he's always thought that he was not smart, not motivated, wanted that quick money. But this teacher, KC, has not only inspired him, but many of the men in the class who are also about to pass their GED test and enroll in college. He said he's had other teachers before at the prison and other correctional facilities, and those teachers just pass out papers and give packets. But this lady brings in stories about history and a microscope, and they can take a look at for the very first time at cells and biology. She teaches English and math as well. She honestly cares about her students and her job. So, Casey, I wanted to give this to you. It's called the Mayor's Citation for Public Service, presented to Kayla Casey Cunningham in recognition of your commitment and dedication in helping make Las Cruces a better community, dated this 20th day of June, 2023, signed by myself, Ken Miyagishima.
Mr. Mayor, City Council. I just want to say that I'm absolutely humbled by this experience and this award. As many of you know, teachers don't teach for the accolades. We teach because we love it in any setting, whether that's elementary school, middle school, high school, adult education, or even a prison setting. We do it because we love it, and it is a huge honor for me to receive this award from the individuals in which I serve. It makes me happy to know that they like my class and that they're listening. Sometimes you don't feel like they are. At Southern New Mexico Correctional Facility, I work with many individuals who are officers, medical staff, rehab specialists, behavioral health specialists, administrators, and teachers. We strive to make our community a safer place while also fighting to reduce the recidivism rates inside of our communities. Our goal overall is to keep you, the individual, safe while also trying to impact and make a change on the individuals in which we do serve. In education, I believe that education is a powerful tool. It is really the key to change. And all the time we hear about change happening at lower levels, elementary levels, middle school levels. But it doesn't matter how old you are, education does have the power to make an impact and to change your life. So I just want to say that I personally will dedicate my life to striving to make that difference and to make that change within that community. And I look forward to continuing to serve those individuals as well as you in the Las Cruces community. So thank you. I'm just deeply honored and humbled by this experience. Thank you.
Okay, so next we have is the American Association of University Women, which I believe you want to come forward, please, to my right. So this is just exactly what it sounds like. These are university women that presumably are retired, and they still help the community, and they have little meetings and luncheons and all that good stuff. And but you all have done some really good things here, and I want to give a proclamation to you all, the City Council and I. Whereas the American Association of University Women, AAUW, is a national grassroots organization established in 1881, which has evolved to become the leading voice in advancing gender equity in education and workplaces across the nation. And whereas the American Association of University Women Las Cruces, or AAUW-LC, is the first local branch in New Mexico that was accepted into the national network on June 25th, 1923. And whereas the AAUW-LC has been among the most active branches in New Mexico, with dedicated members working across our city and county to empower and advance women and girls. And whereas AAUWC no, I think they threw a C in there. AAUW-LC has annually organized and hosted Girls Can for the past 27 years, bringing sixth grade girls together for a one-day conference, allowing them to explore a variety of careers, learning about their options directly from female role models with careers in various professional fields. And whereas AAUW-LC has always supported post-secondary educational opportunities for women since 1988 and has been given the True Grit Awards to young women graduating from high schools in Las Cruces, and AAUW-LC endowed scholarships to college women enrolled at New Mexico State University. And whereas the City of Las Cruces recognizes AAUW-LC as making a contribution to our country by supporting and moving women and girls forward. Now, therefore, we, the Mayor and City Council of Las Cruces, New Mexico, do hereby proclaim the day, June 25th, 2023, as a day to celebrate the centennial of the American Association of University Women Las Cruces, attested to by our city clerk, Christine Rivera, and signed by myself, Ken Miyagishima. Welcome to say a few words.
Well, I want to thank you, Mr. Mayor, and the City Council for giving us this recognition. And it's truly an honor to have served for the last 2 years as president of this organization. And Donna's going to be co-president with me in the next year, continuing. And it's been great fun to try to influence the young people of this community with Girls Can, and showing 12-year-old girls what their opportunities could be, expanding their horizons, as it were, and also with the university here in town providing scholarships and encouraging them. So all of these things, I mean, we do a lot of other things, but those are the main things to continue the theme of how great education is. Thank you. Oh, she says no.
Oh, okay. All right, well, thank you again. Okay, no, that's, oh, up, there's a picture here.
Oh, yes, that would be great.
Okay, well, thank you very much, and thanks for all that you do, and here's to another 100 years. Okay, now I'm going to read the conflict of Mayor Pro Tem reminded me to ask to remind, I don't know if you're aware of this, there were 2 more presentations that were supposed to be presented. Unfortunately, one of them is a little bit under the weather, and so we decided to wait until the next council meeting. So that's the proclamation for Mr. Newby, as well as Ms. Heather Pollard. So you're welcome to still stay for our meeting, but if you're here for that, we'll see you in a few weeks. Okay, so now I'm going to go to the conflict of interest statement. This is where I'll ask if any member of the city council, city manager, or city staff has any known conflict of interest on any item on the agenda.
None.
None, Grant.
Candara.
None, Aveda.
Did you all hear what they said? I think they said none, right? None. Just messing. I'm just kidding. Okay, so now we're going to go to public participation. This is where members of the public can speak to council for a total of 7 minutes. 3 minutes for public participation, leaving 4 minutes if you need to talk about something that's on the agenda. All that we ask is that it not be, when you're coming up here, that it not be pertaining to any pending litigation, and that it not be on the agenda. If you have to talk about something on the agenda, please let us know, because the council can't respond to you, but we would prefer that you just use this as a means to talk about anything other than the agenda, okay? So I usually start on my left, and I usually start on the first row. So I'm going to start with my first row, and anyone on the first, yes, ma'am, please come forward, and thank you for the flags.
Oh, you're quite welcome.
Yeah.
There's a reason for that.
Okay.
Before my time starts,
I need you to talk to the mic. Yeah.
but I wanted you all to see my shirt first of all. Your flag moves because of the last breath of those veterans that gave up their lives for their country. My name is Lori English. On July 19th of 2019, I was honored by the City Council, including Councilor Flores and Councilor Gondra and our Honorable Mayor, for my community service. I received both the proclamation and the Mayor's Award for my involvement in pets
and vets. As of 2 weeks ago, Monday, I was very, very let down at the way this council reacted to a veterans issue in Veterans Park. The council at that time, on Monday the 5th, basically succeeded in rendering those awards pretty much useless to me, because apparently veterans don't matter, emotions do, and I think this was very uncalled for. You not only accomplished changing policy, which was a dangerous change that will affect all the parks in the city, but you also granted a non-combatant a space for a memorial in Veterans Park, simply because, unfortunately, through nobody's fault, this young lady lost her life. And her father is active duty, I think, military at Holloman. I'm not sure, but the bottom line is that those awards to me are somewhat meaningless, because they did not come from the heart. I do honor the counselors that were there that helped me get those awards. On June 5th, you surpassed your high attitudes of being in charge by allowing a memorial to be erected on what many people, not only veterans, feel is hallowed ground. There's a big hunkin' rock right on Roadrunner Parkway in front of the park that says Veterans Park. It does not say Veterans and Dependents or Families Park. So consequently, I and a lot of other veterans are very upset about that. Years ago, the city Parks and Rec Department laid down single guidelines given to the Veterans Advisory Board, who only acted, unlike the council, according to those guidelines. You didn't even want to hear the give the courtesy to the chair of the VAB a chance to explain those guidelines. You all acted on emotion. You had two people here, and unfortunately, I'm here again sincerely sorrowful for the loss of that young life, and I feel for those two parents, although I have no children. But that child should not be allowed to be memorialized in Veterans Park, in a place where veterans, he only gave me 2 minutes. He didn't reset the clock. I timed this myself.
Okay, Lori, I'll give you 1 more minute, okay?
I'm sorry?
1 more minute, please.
Thank you, sir. And the clock needs to be reset to 3 minutes, not 2. Anyhow, this is an honored park. It's hallowed ground. It has no space for non-veterans. Even though it's a military family, I can understand that. But if you haven't been a veteran, if you haven't served, you do not understand honor that we veterans have for our fallen men and women who have served their country. Every name on those walls and memorials in the park are veterans that enlisted in the state of New Mexico and gave their lives in service of not only the state of New Mexico, but their country. You acted on emotion and not on the rules of the Veterans Advisory Board and the City Parks Department. In fact, you disrespected us. And one counselor even referred to us as old veterans and only gave us 2 minutes to speak. So I'm asking you to rescind that decision, make a change, show the veterans that you care, and don't act for one person when you are having to deal with the many. Thank you.
Thank you, Lori, and thank you for your service as well. Is anyone else on the first row? No? Okay, that second row, Rico? All right.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. My name is Rico Gonzalez, and I work with El Paso Electric. I've got a couple items today. I came with only one, but I'm leaving with 3. Hot temperatures. We are coming into some really hot times here in the city. You all have set up some cooling station locations. We've been in concert with that. As these temperatures come up, we do ask that we get our thermostats up to 75, 76, even 78 if it gets up to 110 to help with the electric load that we have moving forward. The second item that I have, and if anyone has any questions on that, give me a call. Girls Can, I just got to say thanks for giving that award. Both my daughters went through Girls Can, and one of the things they did not mention is that they have tutorials or classes for parents who of those girls on how to get into college and the like. So really great program. And then the third piece is is our internship program through the county. We have about 5 at EPE, and Trinity here is going to introduce herself, and she's been having to go through these processes with me, and I know I feel bad for her, but hopefully it'll be a good thing in the future. So thank you, Councilor Graham, for pointing that out to me. Okay, so earlier. Okay, Trinity.
Mayor and Council, my name is Trinity Levy. I go to Oregon Mountain High School, and this summer I've been working on economic development with El Paso Electric as a student intern. Thank you.
So thank you very much.
Thank you and congratulations, Trinity. One thing I want you to be aware of, those who can speak before the public, just as you did, tend to make 37% more income than their peers who don't know how to speak in public. So good job for you. I know it's scary, but you did good. Okay, anyone else on the second row? Rod?
My name is Rod Gajewski. I'm the adjutant for Purple Heart Las Cruces. I'm also a member of the Mayor's Veterans Advisory Board. And I wanted to mirror what Lori English said in as much as, first of all, in April, I appeared before this council and talked about the candlelight ceremony. Only one person had responded to that and participated in the candlelight ceremony, and that was the mayor, which he's done every year. The fact is, I think veterans have been disrespected, and the white elephants in the room, there are 2 that are very important at this particular situation that was voted on 2 weeks ago. Number 1, no one has ever talked about the poor individual who backed over the little girl and killed her. He'll live with that forever. And no one ever discussed that. No, second part of it, not anyone ever voiced any concerns or wording to the Veterans Advisory Board regarding why we had the vote. We had 2 votes that were unanimous in saying no to a monument. The third thing is those of you that have children, you know where that child is, and when the child is 1.5 years old. And so all I'm saying is that I think that as Lori said, a disservice has been done to the veterans. I think veterans have been disrespected. And I think that you have to understand that the veterans represent 10% of the population of this city, and we will vote that way. I live in the county, so I don't have to worry about it. But the fact of the matter is that nobody on this council reached out to the Veterans Advisory Board and said, why did you do that? Why did you have that vote? And so, it's just a travesty. And what we've done is we've now opened up a can of worms that says, okay, my relative was a veteran, so they should be honored in the park. The resolution that was accepted 20 years ago says it's for a war, a battle, or an honored veteran, or a civilian who has done honorable veterans commitments to the community. And so, it's just sad that we have come to the point where we don't honor previous resolutions, and we don't honor the veterans of our community. And the Marine Corps League is here. Other veterans would probably have shown up, but yeah, unfortunately, we are old veterans. But we are old veterans who served so that you guys could make the decisions that you make.
Yeah. Thank you, Rod. Okay.
Morning, Mayor, council members. My name is Andres Rivera. I'm a member of the Marine Corps League Honor Guard, El Perro Detachment Force 78. I've been a member for 23 years now. Did 27 years in Corps, retired, and I'm proud of it, proud of being a veteran, proud of being with that group. It's an awesome group. But like they said, why even have a Veterans Advisory Group if it's going to go in one ear and out the other? That's disrespecting us. And like I said, if it's not one thing, it's another. I'm here to honor our fellow veterans and do things for the community. I've done just about every parade that you've had here in Las Cruces, the firework display, the Veterans Day Parade. We got an all-force, I take at least 18 members to do on the parade, either on the float or marching. And still, I would do military honors for a fellow veteran at Veterans Park that's coming up, and I was told I had to get a permit for this, a permit for that, a permit for this, because for loud noise, because I'm doing the 3 volleys to render honors. I've done over 1,200 funerals in Las Cruces and never got asked to get a permit for shooting the rifles for the 3 volleys to honor our fellow veterans. I want to do it at Veterans Park for a fellow veteran from a veterans group, and I got to have permits. That's, again, to me, it's a slap in the face, but thank you.
Andres, I haven't heard of that. Will you please email me so we can find out, get a little bit more find out a little bit more about that, please? Yeah. Okay, anyone else on the second row? Third row?
Mr. Mayor, honored council members, my name is Jeffrey Ekman. I, too, am a part of the Marine Corps League. I did 27 and a half years in the military, 13 Army, 13 Marine Corps. I have severe PTSD because of what I have done, what I felt was positive for the veterans as well as the groups. Many times we talk about mental health. Where is it? Where's the hospitals? Where's the people that will assist those of us with PTSD? In the Marine Corps League that I belong to, where every time we fire the routes, I have an episode, but I still do it for the veterans who have given the ultimate sacrifice. For those of us that have lost family members, for those of us that have lost members of our communities. Those in the fire department, police department, they're just as much of a family as your brothers and sisters and aunts and uncles. For those of us that serve, it doesn't matter whether we're related by blood or by the oath we've taken. We want to be taken care of because we have given our ultimate sacrifice. Thank you.
Thank you. That's the third row. Yes, sir. Please come forward. And if you can adjust the microphone so it's pretty much right in front of your mouth, that would be great.
Members of the council.
Can you come a little bit closer, sir?
Members of the council, Mr. Mayor, thank you for allowing this time for me. I've never done this before. I simply have
Excuse me, sir. I need you to state your name,
I'm sorry.
and if you can please talk into that microphone and move that as close as you can, please.
My name is Richard Petrillo, and I'm a resident in District 4. And I come here with simply one question for the council and for you as well, Mr. Mayor. And is that the person named Rico, I didn't know was going to be here. I might have taken that opportunity to meet with him. My question is, has the council at this time, within the last few months, I may have missed something, considered what emergency measures would be taken by the city in the event that we have a protracted loss of electric power. And this would include, of course, the so-called cooling stations that I presume are run on the normal grid. This is becoming more and more an issue for communities and cities across the country. And it would especially affect the elderly and families with small children. And it would cause, if it was protracted, a great deal of tension and anxiety in the city. And I'm not offering anything or in any terms of confrontation or demands, but I think it's something that needs to be given a deeper consideration. And we've seen across the country examples where whole communities and much larger cities than Las Cruces have faltered on this issue. Not that it's going to be resolved overnight, but it's something I believe the council and the mayor need to work with. Thank you.
Mr. Petrillo, I can try to answer your question. So if you've ever noticed the difference between us here in the Southwest as far as our electric needs and the various equipment versus those back east. So back east, they're not used to the heat, and so sometimes they really messes them up, just like we're not really used to the real cold. So what I'm trying to get at is El Paso Electric will monitor it, and if I've only seen this happen once in the last 10 years, they'll have what they call a rolling blackout. They'll know exactly where it's going to, if the power is going to be too much, they'll let us know. And I'll tell you this much, like for example, the hospital's never in that grid. There are certain grids that they will institute. And the hospital is always going to have power. Like take us, for example, we have our own generator here, and some of the other places at the university has their own power generator if the power goes out. But they'll do the rolling blackouts to kind of keep the power at a certain level so that there's always power for those that are really essential, like various hospitals throughout the city and some others, police, fire, things of this nature that have to have electricity.
Right.
But you raised a great question. Thank you for asking it.
Thank you.
Okay, anyone else? That was what, third row, I believe? How about fourth row? Yes, sir. Same thing. If you could just state your name and talk into the mic, that would be great.
Good afternoon, council members, mayor. My name's Eddie Thomas. I'm going to downshift a little bit here. It's what I want to talk about is something that's not so contentious as the topics have been brought up so far this afternoon. What I would like to just draw your attention to is the upgrade project that is in, I believe it's District 4, Councilmember Bencomo's district. So I know that you'll be listening to this. In seeing what has been done to one of the streets where the beautification, well, not beautification, the upgrade is planned, there is these white cones that make you have to swerve on, I believe it's Melendres Street. And I know that the same is planned for the rest of the area. And I applaud you for that. That's great. We love getting all the attention. But just a simple point that I want to get across is that where this, and I'm no civil engineer, but this swerving to get speeders to slow down in those streets around that neighborhood, I think that's what the whole purpose is. Why don't we use speed bumps? It's simpler, it's cheaper, and I don't know why this swerving business, why anybody thinks that's going to slow down the speeders and the people that actually cut through our streets to bypass traffic signals on Valley. So just a simple thing. I hope that the next, I've been attending the meetings here in this building regarding that. We get notifications in our mailbox. But I would just like to head this off at the pass before it goes on any further. I live on Calle del Encanto, and I would hate to see this having to swerve and these islands that are going to be built into the side of the street. It takes away some of the parking, okay, which my neighbors already are, I don't know why, they come to me. But in my little area, we don't want that. So if there's any influence that I can wield and just get your attention, I would be greatly appreciated that we do something that's simpler, probably more cost-effective, and I think wouldn't take away any of our parking spaces.
You know, Mr. Thomas, it's interesting that you talked about the swerving. In the last 20 years, I've seen the city move from speed humps or speed bumps to what you see here today. Mm-hmm. And I think the reason being, there's a couple reasons. One, what it causes the driver to see, in your case, you thought you were going to have to swerve, when really you're just having these little medians stick out. And the drive path is still the same, but to the brain, it tells the driver to slow down. The reason why the city has gotten away from it, of course, now the council can bring it back and tell staff we want these back, but it's because of emergency vehicles. And I want to talk whether it's a big fire truck trying to go down that street really fast, or more importantly, an ambulance that's carrying someone. It's vital that they get to the hospital, and then they have to stop and slow and go over the speed hump, because imagine them trying to go over a speed bump at 40 miles an hour. It could be really bad. And so that, I think, is the number one reason why we don't use the speed humps anymore. And we're going to what you just described, little medians that give the impression that you're going to have to either slow down or you're not going to take the turn, when really it's really the same path. It's almost not an illusion, but it makes the brain say, hey, slow down here, and it's been working. Just like Farney Road, that used to be a drag strip, and then when they started putting in the little medians, I haven't gotten any complaints. I don't know if Councilor Beta has, but I haven't. And so that's been working out several years, but we appreciate your comments.
Okay, well, I just thought I'd throw it out there and see if I could, I don't know, get some kind of a resolution on it and why you're going to that.
Yes, sir.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so that was the fourth row. Anyone else on the fourth row? Fifth row? Sixth row?
Good afternoon. Mayor Pro Tem, Council, City Management, members of the staff. My name is Rafael Leos. You recognize me as the Deputy Director for South Central Solid Waste Authority. I also serve the county as a lieutenant for District 16 Volunteer Fire Department with over 10 years of service for them. And I'm actually here on my unofficial capacity, as you remember from your last meeting on June 5th, where we identified a very similar issue with speeding in our community, and that is off of Aspen and Hickory Loop. Our address is 1032 Tamarack Drive, and the reason that it's important to us is, as I brought up in the last meeting, is our children play in that community, they ride bikes in that community, we walk the streets, we walk our dogs, but we are one of 100 homes that have residents that live in that community. And in doing so, I wanted to thank, my message is a little different today, only because I wanted to thank Councilor Flores. At the last meeting, I went back and I watched the whole meeting, and I saw at the very end that you were it was a long meeting, understandably. You probably had the breath for one last comment, and you wanted the city staff to look at speeding mitigation strategies and calming studies that in your district, but then you also extended it. So I wanted to thank you that maybe you had heard us, that it's around the whole city, which you may have heard here as well. And then again, thank you, Councilor Bencomo, because while it was short in the previous meeting, I didn't get a chance to officially thank you for coming out, walking through the streets, seeing that 90%, 9 out of 10 cars are cars that are going through our community and not actually residents. That's only going to increase as a result of maybe commercial business going up. There is a new business going up from that old hotel, which we believe as a community is going to bring a lot more traffic. Secondarily, there was a special use permit that was approved within our community at a home for a business, which a mall one for small business. But in consideration, I don't believe in the previous publications that letters were sent out to notify the community that this is occurring. I act as somewhat of one of those community stewards that people reach out to. Don't know why they reach out to you, just so that we could communicate this forward. But nonetheless, we've only reached 30%. I know we need 75% to get a petition in order to bring it forth. I just want to share with the last 30 seconds is that we are the community, and we are willing to cooperate. We're not out here for a handout, but we're just seeking guidance on how we can support that. And again, my message did shift today only because I'm thankful that we do have 2 other residents here that in our community that are going to provide their own statements. But again, and just lastly, Mayor Pro Tem, I appreciate you mentioning that my girls do have a voice. The voice I was referring to was that of a vote. So with that, thank you.
Thanks, Rafael. When the city manager gets back, I'm going to ask him a little bit of an update on those mobile speed vans, because I know those would be instrumental to go around the city. But thank you for the presentation, and just want to let you know you left off like 4 council members as far as thanking them.
Oh, yeah.
I'm just kidding. I'm just messing with you. Thanks, Rafael. We appreciate all that you do at the South Central Solid Waste Authority.
Appreciate the opportunity, and just for the record, Madam Chair, I do have a leave slip so that I could be here on my unofficial capacity. So
sounds good. Okay, so that was the 6th row. Anyone else on the 6th row? 7th row? 8th row? Anyone on my, anyone? Yes, ma'am. You want to come forward? Yeah, he was just waving them by.
Hello, my name is Teresa Cummings. I live on Aspen Avenue. I want to thank Rafael for giving all of our residents in Glendale Gardens an opportunity to voice our wishes that something can be done for the 50 mile-an-hour cars and vehicles, trucks, that use our road, Aspen Avenue, as a shortcut, thinking they can beat the lights on Valley as well as on Avenida de Mesilla. I have seen people move out of the way for cars. I fear going to my mailbox when I see cars coming down the street, either going east or west, on Aspen Avenue. Something terrible and horrible is going to happen in the future if nothing is done in the present. That's all I have to say. I want to avoid anything that may bring sorrow to anyone on our street who lives in our community. Thank you for whatever you can do. I also have a question for the fire chief. What is the procedure when fire trucks or ambulances need to go on Bouts Road, I believe, out of Mesilla that hooks up with Valley? There are speed tables there, very effective. You can actually go, the speed limit is 25. You can actually go 35 over those speed tables, gradual up, level out, gradual down. So I know because I've tried it, and I'm very glad that there are no police officers around, but you can go over those speed tables. So that might be something you want to consider, bringing those back, spreading them around the city. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Cummings. Okay, so no one else on my, oh, yes, sir. Anyone else, you want to come forward and kind of come up closer? So he'll be the last one on this side, okay? Unless we have some other people who want to speak. Okay.
Okay, you're going to reset the The clock? Okay, I'm here with Raphael as well. I hope you're not tired of hearing about this, but I live right down the street.
Excuse me, sir, I need you to state your name, please.
John Charbonnet, and I'm on the other end of the street from Raphael. We do have a big problem there, and I don't know if all of you members are familiar with the layout of our neighborhood. Are you all? It's a loop. You go off Valley Drive, and you come right back to Valley Drive again. But there's a little side street, Hickory. You know where the McDonald's is over in Avenida de Mesilla? That's where it comes out. So what everybody does is they turn off Valley, they go down into our neighborhood, they take that little side street, they shoot out onto Avenida de Mesilla there, or they may be going to Walmart, wherever they're going. That's the problem. So we've asked to do something to slow down the traffic, but really, over half of the people that are driving down that street, they don't live there. They don't need to go through our neighborhood at all. What I'd recommend you do, cheapest thing you could possibly do, is just close Hickory. Just close that street. That street doesn't need to go all the way through into our neighborhood. You can still get to all the businesses there by going past McDonald's, by coming off Avenida de Mesilla. Just try it for a week. Put up a road closed sign. We actually had that happen back several months ago. There was some road work being done, and there was a pile of dirt on the street that obstructed the street pretty well. It was like a speed bump. You had to climb over this thing to get through. The traffic almost disappeared because people didn't want to have to hump over that thing. So a speed bump there would help, but I don't see the reason why that road even needs to be there at all. I mean, what function does it serve? The fire department, you'd come in off a valley. The ambulance department, the ambulance service, there's one ambulance service on Valley right there. So they're not going to go all the way around Avenida de Mesilla to get into our neighborhood. So as far as safety vehicles, there's no reason why they would use Hickory. So consider that. Maybe just as a temporary solution, maybe it would work. And thanks for the council members that have been helping us. I appreciate your concern. Thank you.
John, I didn't catch your last name. Do me a favor, drop me an email about your proposal, and I'll send it to the management team and see what they say. That's interesting. I'm looking at it. I can see your point. Let me let you guys go last, since you're going to want a little bit more than, yes. All right. Okay, so I'm going to start on my right. Anyone on the second row? Third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth? No, just kidding. Fourth row.
Good morning. My name's Jim Hurst, and I just want to thank you guys for being here. I know you get paid big bucks, but just the same, you sit and listen, and thank you for serving. And I also want to say thank you for taking the time to listen to public comments. Our society is getting pressurized, and if citizens do not have a way to vent and to express their frustrations about our government, then they will find other means to do so. And so you are the first line of protecting us against the crazies. Let them come here, let them get it out, and that's one line of defense for our democracy. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you, Mr. Hurst. We appreciate that. And as Lori had mentioned, though, in all fairness, without our veterans, we wouldn't have the great country that we have, the ability to, for you all as our bosses, to be able to say what you want to say. I still recall, I think in England, only on Sundays for 15 minutes, you can stand in a little square to yell about the Queen, and then that's it. So here, you can do this year-round, 24/7, 365. Not that there's a Queen here, but other than Councilor Flores, but. Okay, so that's the fourth row. Anyone else on the fourth row? How about fifth row? Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, sir.
All right. Thank you, Mayor. You ran through a few rows pretty fast, right? before they. My name is Quinn Cooper. I spoke at the last council meeting on property theft that's risen in the last year, my own auto theft that I experienced the month before last. What I actually want to talk about is, so I understand that these meetings, they can go quite late, and so it's not practical to start city council meetings later in the evening. However, it makes it very inaccessible to younger people who are not retired, who are working during the week. And so I really want to know about what, other than contacting our representatives directly for the councils that we live in, what are better ways for working people to engage with city council? Do you guys ever consider doing maybe an occasional later session for more public input where other meeting items might be less prioritized? Kind of just, and get some ideas from the council itself on how to address that engagement. Thank you.
Yeah, Mr. Cooper, I have to tell you, so I don't know if you heard, this is my last year in office. So I started in November 2021, and I can tell you, we've had council meetings at 9 o'clock, we've had them at 1 o'clock, and we've even had them at 5 o'clock. We've even moved around the districts in District 1 through 6, and the participation probably has never been as great as it is here today, believe it or not. Yeah, the other places that we go to, it's sparsely attended. And whether we change it to 9 o'clock in the morning or 5 o'clock in the evening, because a lot of times it seems like they would like to come here, but they're tired, they're working, maybe they have another job. Bottom line is, this has worked out the best. But again, who knows? Next year could be a different leadership, and they may want to change it. But I'm just telling you, I've experienced all three, and this one here seems to work out the best. Mondays is a little difficult. Maybe a Tuesday might be better, but still, either way, it's good. But thank you very much for your input. Okay, that was fifth row, I think. Anyone? Sixth row? Don?
Okay, hello, Mr. Mayor, Council. Thanks for the opportunity to talk with you today. First of all, I want to thank you for...
Excuse me, Don, I need you to state your name, please.
Don Kurtz, I live in Las Cruces. I want to thank you for your proactivity on the energy transition. This has been a council and a city that's been in the forefront of this and an example to cities around the state and country. And I just wanted to remind you of one of the great things you did, which was to pass in December 20th, 2021, just a year and a half ago, which unanimously passed a resolution to adopt sustainable and beneficial electrification standards in new construction that is owned or developed by the city. And I mention it because I was listening to the work session on May 8th, where you were discussing another admirable project, which is the Loman subdivision or development. And I mention it because one of the items in this resolution was that all new construction that is owned or developed by the city shall be designed through a holistic approach through various complementary and sustainable practices that include, but are not limited to, and item C is selection of efficient appliances that are all electric. We're talking about appliances here. We're not really talking crock pots or hair dryers or toaster ovens. When we're talking about in these buildings, the appliances are to heat and cool space or to heat water. And we're talking heat pumps, efficient water, electric water heaters, et cetera. And so, again, I bring this up to you on the May 8th. I'm sure it's already part of your thinking and part of the thinking of city staff, but I just wanted to remind you, this applies to the Loman project, right? And so that 114 acres is required by the resolution you passed to have all electric buildings. And why that's important early on, I think, is that the city is entering into, it mentioned an RFP for a request for qualifications for a master developer. It's very important that that master developer know that this is going to be an all-electric development. And the resolution just talks about the buildings. But obviously, if you're going to have all-electric buildings, you're not going to want to put in hundreds of thousands of dollars of gas infrastructure that will never be used. So when they start thinking about this, it's important that developers who apply for this understand. And when we come to the thing of putting in gas infrastructure, it's costly, it can't be used, and I think some of us have in the back of our minds that it can be some kind of backup for the electricity. But what would that gas be doing? I mean, these are all electric buildings. And so anyway, I thank you for this, and I just want to, now that our council, I just want to remind you, I know you passed a lot of good legislation. And you just need to remember it's there, and staff as well, that this is one of the requirements.
Okay, thank you. Okay, anyone on the 6th row, 7th row, 8th? Anyone else on my right? Okay, so Yoli, you asked for 5 minutes, and you brought a guest with you. She gets 3 minutes, right? 5 minutes, Yoli.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Since she wanted to come here, we didn't have enough notice to get a translator, so I am going to be her translator. I don't think we need exactly 3 minutes for her, but she needs to be able to talk and then me translate. And please bear with me because I've never done any public translating, but I think it's necessary. So those of you who do know Spanish, I think you'll get it directly from her, but I'm going to do the best I can, all right?
Okay.
Thank you.
And I just need you to state your name, Yoli, and as well as your guest. So are you going to speak first, Yoli?
She will.
She will, okay.
Yes. My name is Yoli Diaz. I'm Executive Director of CARE, Cancer Aid Resource and Education. ¿Y su nombre?
Buenas tardes, mi nombre es Nayeli Varela.
Good afternoon. My name is Nayeli Varela, and thank you, Mayor, City Councilor, staff, and public.
Bueno, quisiera hablarles un poco de lo que he vivido. Yo vivía en El Paso, Texas.
I would like to speak a little bit of where I've lived.
Y en el 2015 me moví a vivir aquí a Nuevo México por las oportunidades de trabajo.
I moved to El Paso 2009. I think hopefully she mentioned that. And I moved to Las Cruces or to New Mexico in 2015 for job opportunities.
Tengo 2 hijos, una niña de 14 y un niño de 8 años.
I have 2 children, one 14 and one 8. Sorry.
Entonces, yo trabajo siempre en las mañanas en el campo y en las tardes de cocinera en un restaurante.
I work in the mornings at agriculture labor and also in the restaurant business in the afternoons.
Quisiera mostrarles unos retratos porque en 2021 empecé a tener problemas de salud.
I would like to show you some photos, some pictures, because in 2021 I started having some health issues.
Así en estas condiciones trabajaba.
In these conditions, I worked.
Porque en ningún lugar me querían atender y primeramente pues fue discriminación.
There was no place I could get medical help and I was discriminated.
Y fui víctima de negligencia.
I was a victim of negligence.
El doctor que me vio me dijo que esto no era nada, que de esto no me iba a morir, que era solo mi apariencia.
The doctor said this was nothing and that I would not die from this, that it was just really basically appearance.
Mi piel se caía con mi ropa se iba la piel y mi cabello se me cayó por completo.
My skin would come off and my hair also fell off.
Y repito, así seguía trabajando, porque él dijo que solo era un hongo, que no tenía nada.
And I continued to work like this. The doctor said it was nothing, and if I didn't mention, he said that she would not die from this.
Esto ya era insoportable, busqué más ayuda y descubrimos que es una enfermedad en el sistema inmune.
She ended up finding a doctor, and they said it was a problem with her immune system, which was actually an autoimmune disease.
Yo pagué todo de mi bolsa, estamos hablando de pagaba hasta $2,000 por un CT scan, biopsias, todo.
I paid for my medical care out of pocket. I paid for biopsy, CT scan, paid up to $2,000.
Y esto fue un año, estar yo pagando, buscando qué era lo que tenía.
This lasted for a year, and she was looking for what was going on with her.
Bueno, ya cuando me di cuenta de la enfermedad es pénfigo, es una enfermedad del sistema inmune y necesitaba quimioterapias.
She ended up finding out that her problem was she had pemphigus, which is an autoimmune disease.
Y pues empezó todavía otra batalla más porque en ningún lado me aceptaron para darme quimioterapias.
Nowhere was she able to get chemotherapies.
Seguí buscando y ya no tenía ni siquiera opciones hasta que no sé cómo de la escuela se dieron cuenta de mis hijos.
She wasn't able to get any help, and it was actually her school's social worker that ended up helping her.
Y fue que llegué a Yoli Díaz y ella fue quien me ayudó a ir al Alburquerque a recibir las quimioterapias.
And it was through the social worker that contacted me, and I was able to help her get the care she needed, and I got her to Albuquerque.
Entonces yo comprendo que no quería que me las dieran gratis, simplemente que nos dieran oportunidad, que no me negaran la atención. Mis hijos me necesitan.
I wasn't looking for free care. She was just looking for health care, and she was willing to pay it. Nayeli, ¿puedo público hacer un comento de su caso?
Claro que sí.
So she just gave me permission because we only have a minute left. I think it's very important to say that it was the Gadsden Independent Schools District social worker that contacted me. And I was really shocked when she told me that she'd been waiting about a year to get health care. But as soon as she told me what was going on, I immediately knew what was going on. And I was in shock that she had said that she had gone to so many places in the healthcare field trying to look for help. And I let the social worker know, please have her contact me, and we got together because what she needed was health insurance because her autoimmune disease is actually treated similarly as cancer. She needed chemotherapy, and those chemotherapy treatments are extremely expensive. There was never going to be a doctor that could help her because of the extreme expense. What she needed was insurance, and immediately, and that's what I helped her with. When I spoke to her dermatologist, he let me know that if this got into her eyes, this condition, she could become blind. And that made me go into basically begging mode. And I told UNM Hospital and UNM Cancer Center, I'm getting her up there, I'm asking for your help, and they said, this is not conventional. I said, well, conventional methods do not work. I'm getting her up there, and I'm asking you to help her. Thank you.
Gracias.
Mayor.
Yes, Councilor.
Thank you. Thank you, Yoli. And me da mucha tristeza saber de su condición, señora. ¿Dónde fue que su sistema, your immune system, dónde fue, en qué edad, cuánto hace que sucedió esto? Y le dijeron, por casualidad, ojalá le han dicho, ¿cómo fue que le afectó a su sistema? ¿Qué fue la causa?
Primeramente me dijeron que no había causa y que no había razón, que ya venía en tu genética, que simplemente despertó la enfermedad, pero que ya está en tu genética.
Oh, y trabaja en los files, ¿verdad?
Sí.
Y allí quizá tienen los empleadores deben de tener aseguranza para cuando se lastiman el trabajo. Estoy pensando que quizá el origen de esta enfermedad quizá la ha tenido toda su vida, pero algo tuvo que afectar y tener que causar el efecto que ha tenido. Y estoy pensando que quizá las químicas de los files, y no sé quién es su empleador y no quiero saber, pero para mí que esto es una situación donde puede ver a un abogado
y que se trata de compensación de empleo, workers' compensation. Y a ver si esa avenida le ayuda un poco, pero me puede muchísimo.
Pues fue lo que creíamos, pensábamos, porque cuando me pasó esto estaba trabajando en una chilera y me dijeron que a lo mejor los químicos, pero el doctor dijo que no tenía nada que ver, nada, que esto iba a pasar.
If I can interrupt for 1 second, Councilor Flores, can you just recap what you've been asking her, because it's required for us for the...
Oh, for the record?
Yes.
So I'll just ask you in English what I just said. Te voy a decir en inglés lo que he dicho en español. So, or I'll recap. I was asking about, in Spanish, I was asking about what triggered her autoimmune situation and what triggered it. And it was brought up to the doctor. I can't even remember what I was asking, but apparently the doctor told you that it wasn't triggered by the chemicals that are used in the work that you do as a field worker, as in the agricultural industry. And then I recommended or suggest that you see an attorney who deals in workers' compensation, because employers, I believe, by federal statute, are obligated to have workers' compensation insurance. And I don't know what doctor told you, but if you have the autoimmune system, it seems to me that it's something that you had a precondition which was triggered by something. And that's that's just my thinking. And that was pretty much what I said. Mr. Mayor, thank you.
So, Yoli, do me a favor. Utilizing this example, will you text me? We'll sit down. I'd like to find out what you did to get her the help, and let me see if we can replicate something, okay? All right, thank you. Thank you for your story.
Gracias.
Okay, now it's my turn, the 5. And I know I won't get done, but 5 minutes for me. Good afternoon, Mayor, councilors, staff, and public. My name is Yoli Diaz, Executive Director of CARE, Cancer Aid Resource and Education. I am a proponent of health insurance for all because it allows access to health care, improved conduct, services, and treatment towards patients by providers, and for doctors, nurses, staff, and administration to be paid. I will begin with my ask, so this is the ask, with the goal of health equity. Create the health care fund. Contract with a nonprofit organization to create a program to include staff to operate and fund the health care program. The purpose is to help Doña Ana County tax-paying residents receive needed health care services for a major health crisis who are denied or delayed health care due to being ineligible for standard health insurances or marketplace plans. City of Las Cruces can help its tax-paying residents receive needed health care by both its city charter and the New Mexico Constitution. The anti-donation clause does not prohibit the state, counties, and municipalities from making a provision for the care and maintenance of sick and indigent persons. And if you ask about funding and how, to create the healthcare fund for the healthcare program, you could use the Telshore Fund, Cannabis Gross Receipts Tax, the General Fund, any fund available or allowable, possibly a partnership with Doña Ana County, and you can create a task force for discussion, criteria, and implementation. Due to time, I will not go into the complicated and multidimensional detailed issues that create the injustice, segregation, and discrimination I witness in access to health care. The Affordable Care Act, enforcement of New Mexico statutes, the Doña Ana County Healthcare Assistance Program, which include treatment and resources regardless of immigration status. I will question, though, why does our state of New Mexico, being the number 3 state in the nation, receiving the most federal funds per resident of $8,692, why do they not ensure that every New Mexico resident, both the U.S. citizen and non-U.S. citizen, are covered? Non-U.S. citizens, known as the undocumented residents, are included in this resident count. I have witnessed the premature deaths, and I've met the American children left as orphans because their parent did not receive the health care they needed when they needed it. I feel that our government needs to consider all tax-paying residents and provide resources to all taxpayers. So Doña Ana County is on red alert, and there's 3 reasons why. 1, our demographics and social determinants of health. Doña Ana County has the 2nd highest population in the state. We have a high Hispanic population, high poverty, low income, high uninsured, high cancer deaths, high diabetes deaths, and no nonprofit hospitals. So the second one is we have 3 private for-profit hospitals. For-profit hospitals are owned either by investors or the shareholders of a publicly traded company. They have higher charged cost ratios, which are markups, and these higher costs make it difficult for many. Border region is the 3rd reason. We have a higher rate of undocumented residents. Undocumented residents are not eligible for Medicare. Undocumented residents are not eligible for Medicaid. Undocumented residents are not eligible for New Mexico Marketplace. Undocumented residents experience roadblocks to travel to nonprofit hospitals like UNM Hospital and UNM Cancer Center, where life-saving treatments can be found. There are Border Patrol checkpoints to the north, west, and east, and 30 of our 33 counties in New Mexico do not share this problem. Our border region creates a higher rate of inequality. It contributes to the injustice, inequity, segregation, and discrimination. And I have been talking about some issues identified with Memorial Medical Center, the lessee of City of Las Cruces in Doña Ana County. MMC is the only hospital that provides chemotherapy and radiation treatment for cancer patients, so if you have no health insurance coverage, there's no service. Memorial Medical Center is contracted with 2 New Mexico Marketplace plans, leaving almost 75% of Americans uninsured. They have no known charity programs. They have high charged cost ratios, which is known as markups, price gouging. They inflate estimates, then give discounts. And that's all I have to say because I have 5 seconds. So what I do want to say is please, thank you for consideration, and I look forward to positive results. Thank you.
Thank you, Yuli. And as you and I had this discussion, we'll take a look at the county's indigent fund, which actually taxes city residents as well, because they take 1/8 of our gross receipts tax and puts it in that account. I believe there's usually $5 to $6 million per year, and I think that, and then what they usually do, whatever, they distribute it to various organizations and also to AMR, but then they take it to the state, who gets tripled the dollars. But ever since the Affordable Care Act was put into place, that was meant to provide insurance for everyone. So that would be a big starting point, but we'll have that discussion if you can text me, and we'll, now, we can, but I want to focus a little bit on Nayeli, is that what's her name? So we can see how we can replicate that and use that as a building block and move forward.
Yeah. One last comment. There was going to be another patient that was going to come, but her client, she had to take her to El Paso for medical care. I don't know if she made it. I'm going to look back, if you don't mind. No, she didn't make it back, but I do thank you, and I think that if we're going to think of our community, it starts with our city and county. Thank you.
Thank you, Yoli. Okay, I think this concludes our public participation. So thank you, everyone, for that portion. And now we're going to go to, let's see here. I have a, okay, I need the closed meeting statement. Okay, Las Cruces City Council met in closed session at 11:06 a.m., June 12th, 2023. The following members were in attendance: Councilors Flores, Coran, Bencomo, Graham, Gandara, and myself, Ken Miyagishima. Staff present were Anastasia Stevens, outside attorney. She came in at 11:42 a.m. via Zoom. Ifo Pili, city manager. Ikani Tamopeo, assistant city manager. Sonia Delgado, assistant city manager. Miguel Dominguez Chief, Las Cruces Police Department, Cody Rogers, outside attorney. She left at 11:41 a.m. Brad Douglas, Deputy City Attorney. The meeting adjourned at 12:01 p.m. And for the record, Las Cruces City Council met in closed session and only discussed those limited items as stated in the posted notice. First one, to discuss pending litigation regarding Mark Price versus Francis Witten, Thaddeus Allen, the City of Las Cruces doing business as Las Cruces Police Department, number 20-CV-1099, which is closed pursuant to NMSA 1978, Section 1015-1H, number 7. Number 2, to discuss pending litigation related to the NMPRC case number 22-00093-UT and potential New Mexico State Supreme Court litigation regarding that NMPRC case, which is closed pursuant to NMSA 1978, Section 1015-1H, number 7. Number 3, to discuss pending litigation regarding to NMPRC case numbers 19-00099-UT and 19-00348-UT and potential New Mexico State Supreme Court litigation regarding that NMPRC case, which is closed pursuant to NMSA 1978, Section 1015-1H, number 7. Number 4, to discuss pending litigation related to the New Mexico Supreme Court case number S-1-SC39804, City of Las Cruces and Doña Ana County versus New Mexico Public Regulation Commission, and NMPRC case number 21-00064-UT, which is closed pursuant to NMSA 1978, Section 1015-1H, number 7. And last is to discuss pending litigation related to NMPRC case number 23-00046-UT, which is closed pursuant to NMSA 1978, Section 1015-1H, number 7. And I think I said it, I don't know if I told you, but the meeting adjourned at 12:01 p.m. Okay? And with that, now we're going to go to accept the agenda as presented.
So moved.
Second, Bencomo.
Motion made by Councilor Flores, second by Councilor Bencomo to accept the agenda as presented. Teresa?
This is on a motion to accept the agenda as presented. Councilor Abeta?
Yes.
Councilor Graham?
Yes.
Councilor Bencomo?
Yes.
Councilor Curran?
Yes.
Councilor Flores?
Yes.
Councilor Gondeta?
Yes.
Mayor?
Yes. Okay, with that, we're going to go to item 8.1, Resolution 23-139. Need a motion and a second?
Move to approve. Second.
Okay, motion made by Councilor Bencomo, second by Councilor Abeta, and Rocio Gamboa will be making the presentation.
I don't think I know where I'm supposed to go. Can you come help me, Christy? Okay, sorry. No, I found it. Sorry, I'm blind. Hello, Mayor, Council members. Rocio Gamboa, Budget Analyst number 2. I'm bringing fourth quarter budget adjustments. These budget adjustments don't have no new programs or policy initiatives. The adjustments are focused on compliance and alignment. This is a routine budgetary business, and the data presented is summarized. Please refer to your packet for detailed information. Our first adjustment is for the Special Revenue Reimbursement Grant for the Police Department. They're requesting, it's a decrease of $30,000 to the revenue and a decrease of $31,000 in expenses. And this is to adjust STEP NMDOT grant and VOCA grant projections to actuals. STEP NMDOT is for the traffic safety funding, and VOCA stands for Victims of Crime Act. The second adjustment is for Transit's capital. They're decreasing expenses of $32,000, and that's to adjust the transit facility maintenance facility grant projections to actuals. Fleet Services Funds needs an increase of $770,000. This increase is The increase is for expenses due to multiple unforeseen issues with the Hadley fuel site. There have been multiple tank tests, fuel management system repairs and maintenance, as well as soil sampling and drilling. And that's why they're going to need, they're requesting this 770 increase. This completes, these are your council options. Those are all the adjustments I have.
Okay, thanks, Rocio. Any questions? How about members of the public? Okay, seeing none. Teresa?
This is on a motion to approve Resolution 23-0139. Counselor Abeta?
Yes.
Counselor Graham?
Yes.
Counselor Bencomo?
Yes.
Counselor Curran?
Yes.
Counselor Flores?
Yes.
Counselor Gondeta?
Yes.
Mayor?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, next item, 8.2, Resolution 23-140.
Move to approve. Second, Corin.
Okay, motion made by Councilor Abeta, second by Councilor Corran, and looks like it has Susan Gonzalez making the presentation.
Good afternoon, Mayor, Council. Susan Gonzalez, Grants Manager. Today we have for your approval 2 reauthorized grants from NMDOT. They are for legislative appropriations that were approved during the 2023 legislative session. NMDOT requires that we accept these by resolution prior to submitting the grant agreement to the state. The first one is for median improvements, $418,842. This is to plan, design, construct, purchase, and install park improvements, landscaping and drainage improvements to street medians in Las Cruces. The time of the expenditure was extended to FY 2025. This is the 3rd reauthorization of this project, and hopefully we get it completed this time. The second project being reauthorized is for the airport taxi lane development and rehab. The original appropriation was for $300,000 to plan, design, construct, and renovate taxi lines, or lanes, excuse me, to include improvements to related infrastructure and utilities. This project was reauthorized to include utilities, the utility work that needed to be done at the airport. Previous appropriation did not allow for that expenditure. So this project will allow that project to be completed. These are your options, and if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer.
Okay, thank you, Susan. Councilor Flores?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, Ms. Gonzalez, for your presentation. On page 4, there's been an appropriation, and the taxi lane. What exactly? Which taxi lane is that? Is that 422?
I'm not exactly sure which one. Let me see if Andy is here.
Oh, good.
Good afternoon, Mr. Mayor and Councilor Flores, Andy Hume, Airport Director. This is for the taxi lane extensions that we did in the southeast corner to facilitate more hangar development. At this point in the previous authorization, it did not let us include utilities. And so that's why we went back for the reauthorization. So we'll be able to add a sewer line extension in that area.
And 422 has been funded.
Mr. Chair, Madam Flores, or Councilor Flores, we are looking at, we're trying to put together a funding package to get 422 in place. We are working with the New Mexico DOT to hopefully fully fund that project.
You're working with who?
The New Mexico DOT.
Oh, great. Thank you, Mr. Hume, and thank you, Ms. Gonzalez. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
You're welcome. Anyone else? How about members of the public? Okay, seeing none. Teresa? Oh, Christine. Okay.
This is on the motion to approve Resolution 23-140. Councilor Abeta? Yes.
Counselor Graham?
Yes.
Counselor Bencomo?
Yes.
Counselor Cran?
Yes.
Counselor Flores?
Yes.
Counselor Gondeta?
Yes.
Mayor?
Yes. Okay, next is item 8.3, Resolution 23-141.
Move to approve. Second.
Okay, motion made by Councilor Abeyta, second by Councilor Bencomo. And it looks like David Ware from Community Development will be making the presentation.
Good afternoon, Mayor and City Council. The resolution you have before you is a request to waive street improvements based with the subdivision. This is a request that you'll see periodically when it's areas that were annexed into the city in the 70s and 80s. They initially started development under county requirements, and at the time, the city requirements were considerably more. So you'll not see this request monthly, but it's something you'll see once or twice a year. The case itself is a property that's located off of Kennedy Road, west of Elks Drive. The property is currently undeveloped, and it's approximately 2¼ acres in size. The zoning of the property is REM, which is a single-family residential that allows mobile homes to be placed on it. The street in question, Kennedy Road, is identified as an arterial on our thoroughfare plans, both the MPO and the city, which has a little larger build-out requirement. The existing Kennedy Road is paved, but it's only 20 feet in width. Typically, an arterial is a minimum of about 48 feet in width of actual pavement, so there's quite a discrepancy there. You'll see on later photographs the actual width of the right-of-way varies throughout this segment of the roadway. It goes from 20 feet to 80 feet. The subject property is this rectangle in this area. This just reflects the zoning. That purple color is that REM that allows residential development, so it allows both mobile homes, site-built homes, and manufactured homes. And then what I talked about, the right-of-way width goes from 20 feet in this area. In this area, it juts out to about 80. Here you'll have probably 60 feet, and then back down to 20 feet of right-of-way. This is an aerial photograph of the area. It is predominantly built, or the homes that are, and the property that are used are residences. The one exception is there's a religious institution on this tract just to the east. The proposal is to subdivide that single lot into 2 single-family lots. The intent is to place a home on each one. They are requesting that they be waived the requirement to bring that section in front of their property, approximately 250 feet in front of it, up to the city standards with additional pavement, curb and guttering, and sidewalks. They said, but they are providing 40 feet of right-of-way. They're dedicating that to the city for any future improvements. So they are contributing to future development of that property in the area. This is the subdivision plat, so you can see the 2¼ acres being split in half. This 40 feet by 250 feet is dedicated right-of-way that they will provide to the city. Here are some photographs of the area. This is looking east up towards the mountains and Elks Drive. This looks to the west, which is down towards I-25 and the valley. As you can see, there is a paved surface there, but none of this roadway has any curb and guttering or sidewalks to it. And you can also see that the other developed lots have some of their own improvements to the parcel, these fences and other improvements they've made to their lots. These are the cross sections that the city builds out for arterial roadways. So you can see in almost every example, they have 2 lanes in both directions. The improvements depend on whether there's bicycle facilities or a multi-use trail provided. The review of the request, it was sent to all of the city departments and programs that deal with development. Their comments came back, all recommended denial with the exception of utilities. Before this was heard by the Planning and Zoning Commission, notice was sent out to adjacent property owners. There were no protests to the subdivision or the waiver. They just wanted to know what was being proposed on the property. This case was heard by the Planning and Zoning Commission at their August 23rd meeting. The council made a motion, or excuse me, the commission made a motion to approve the waiver, but it was ultimately denied by a 2-4 vote. Some of their reasonings were based on the code requirements, both the subdivision code and the design standards. It basically requires that any public improvements that are deemed necessary per standards be provided by the developer. It also requires that they be from dedicated improved streets, and again, that they're, when they're adjacent to a larger street, that they're responsible for half of the improvements associated with the subdivision. The commission also stated one of the reasons for denial of the waiver was that the criteria they had to consider that they were unable to substantiate that there was a hardship due to the topography, the conditions of development in the area. And they also noted that because it is a smaller road and there wasn't any city projects on the books to improve it, this would have additional impacts to that street. So today, the council has the opportunity to uphold the finding of the Planning and Zoning Commission or to grant the waiver and not require any improvements on this tract of land. The property owner's representative is here, Moy Surveying. Antoine Magianis is here if you have any questions about the request.
Thanks, Dave. Can you do me a favor? Can you put the picture back up that shows the current condition of the road, please? Okay, thanks. Councilor Karan?
Thank you. I think this is my district, or very close to District 1, and in the future it will be in District 1, but I have been to this area, including some adjacent streets. You know, we have had ongoing conversations, and I'm hoping you can just clarify a few historical things related to this area, and then also kind of future planning. One, this is all part of relatively recently annexed former county property, correct?
Madam Chair, it probably has been in the city since at least the mid-90s, but the development probably did start under county rules and regulations.
So it's in a different time, I would say, just to give it some context. And then the other part I wanted to ask about, I know that there are some mixed utilities in this area, like different water purveyors and sewer purveyors, and so I'm curious if you can give a little picture of what that looks like. And I know that this road and the area around it, I know that a lot of residents who live here would like to see significant improvements, but I don't know that any of these are on any particular priority lists at this time. Not to say that they couldn't be in the future, but this would probably include major utility infrastructure overhaul if we did focus on this road, correct?
Mayor and Councilor Curran, you are correct. That's one of those areas where the city, Moongate Water, and Doñana Mutual all provide water service. Often these areas do not have sanitary sewer. It would be septic tanks that would be used. So if there were a major project or a major road connection, it would be an opportune time to look at either removing the septics and extending the utilities to that area. And then, like I said, all those properties are built out without having, or some of them have been built out without the requirement of meeting those road standards requirements.
This does not make it any less complicated, frankly. But it does provide a little bit of clarity, thank you, to the context. And so just as one final clarification, a yes upholds a yes is a denial?
Mayor and Councilor Cranton, you're correct. A yes vote would be upholding the denial of the Planning and Zoning Commission. Well, wait a minute. Let me look at that.
I like to be correct, but I think I might be wrong in this case, actually.
I apologize. Okay, so a yes vote would approve the waiver. A no vote would deny it. The Planning and Zoning Commission recommendation was that you deny the waiver, but the resolution has been written for you to approve it. So a yes vote approves the waiver, a no vote denies the waiver. Would you like me to say it again?
No, I mean, I got it. It's no, again, it's still really complicated, but at least I understand what a vote means. And I guess what I would say is, generally, everyone wants their roads to be nice and fancy with sidewalks and curbs and gutters. And I know that this is true in adjacent areas to this area of residence there. Similarly, everyone wants more opportunities for people to live and exist in our world, and this is a subdivision to allow for more housing to exist in the space. So I'm just explaining my conflicted feelings about this, and also the bigger situational factors that might go into it. And thank you for the clarification. I know at least what each vote means, and thanks, David.
Before I turn to Mayor Pro Tem and then Councilor Bencomo and then Councilor Flores, Dave, did you say they were going to build 2 units? And were they going to live in one of them, or were these for non-owner occupied?
Mayor, the subdivision would be for 2 units. I do not know what the intent is, if it's a family subdivision or if there's an intent. I believe one home has already been placed on the property, but maybe Mr. Magianis could help.
Mr. Mayor, councilors, my name is Anton Magallanes, and I am with Moy Surveying, representing the client, who, the owner of the property. There's actually, they're close friends, and they both have vested interest in the property, and so they're wanting to subdivide the property. And at this time, one of them is looking to live within one of the lots. I'm not sure which one, I imagine, but a couple of things, if I may, in addition to that. This subdivision was built in 1911. So Elephant Butte Land and Trust, Subdivision A, through all of the letters. They're such a headache to survey because they don't look like they used to anymore. 1911 is when that subdivision plat was filed. And so back in the day, they had 16-foot platted roads. So it's probably close to what a 16-foot platted road was back in the day. I think it's really interesting to point out the votes of confidence for the approval of the waiver that P&Z also mentioned. And those 2 votes came from the fact that connectivity matters, right? Thoroughfares and future thoroughfares matter. But to gain Angler, which is on the east side of Elks Road is where we have our fully built out Angler, and to connect that to where this road would have to go to, which is Armstrong Road, we're looking at some intense, probably eminent domain, for sure. There's some city property, I think, already that exists. And so when we think about, it's really interesting because if you've driven to this area, as you're approaching the end of the street, huge no trespassing signs. No trespassing, do not enter. And I've never talked with the residents. I'm sure they're lovely residents, but I have to imagine they also don't really fare well. I could have called them to come here and they would have been like, don't make my road 120 foot wide. So I agree 100% with Councilor Curran that people do want these paved roads. I don't think these residents might know that their road would change from 20 feet to 120 feet. And I think that's going to really make a huge difference. So much so that I would also argue we do have extreme physical hardship because you couldn't build that road today without probably creating setback violations with some of the structures that already exist, and then potentially having property lines after that dedication would have to happen, run extremely close or into existing dwellings that already exist right at that intersection. So again, I think the future thoroughfare plan, this already is an existing thoroughfare planned road with 120-foot width. But as we go to the end of the road is where it's for proposed arterial. And again, I'm all for that. I think it makes sense. I love to see this road completed. I'm 37 years old. I don't know if I'll see it in my lifetime, just because there's some huge culverts and a lot of challenges that I think civilly, a civil engineer is going to have to manage. The other point that I think is extremely important to make is that they are just looking to split this into 2 properties, and they're willing to give the dedication as they need to. There's not any concern with giving that dedication. Luckily, the land is vacant, so we're not creating any setback issues or any concerns with giving such a large dedication. But the other thing to consider is what we're asking for is just a waiver for 100% of the improvements, because it just doesn't seem justifiable. We know that, I'm going to go back to those cross sections. That won't be built with this project, or half of that, right? So we have a 120-foot right-of-way. They would be responsible for completion of half of that right-of-way, but we know physically it doesn't make sense to build that out in the field right now. So more than likely a payment in lieu of construction would be requested. My gripe and my biggest complaint and gripe that I've had from the beginning of this and other projects like this is the payment that goes into this fund is not going to be necessarily used for this project. And I have a hard time with that, and I think it's extremely inequitable for our constituents to have to give X amount of dollars for a payment in lieu of a project that doesn't necessarily go to the improvement of their road, which on the other side of things, I understand a whole lot of $40,000, $50,000 accounts doesn't do much. One account with the sum of that does a lot. But how do we justify that to the constituents? And that's where we're saying what we're requesting is just the 100% waiver of those road improvements. I'd answer any questions if anybody has any.
Okay, well, I have a few, we appreciate that.
Sure.
I have a few council members that have a few questions. Thank you. But if you want to stay nearby, that'd be great. So we have Mayor Pro Tem, and then Councilor Bencomo, Councilor Flores.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you. Appreciate the presentation and the comments thus far. You know, I read the packet, the notes, P&Z, and then there was additional notes. Now, I think, were they from MPO? There was so much confusion in those notes of process that I had to go back and read it twice, and I'm still very unclear. There was conflict between staff. There was, discussion that was had that was stopped. I mean, there was half-complete sentences, incomplete sentences, which made me feel like not everybody was being given the opportunity to really have, you know, the discussion back and forth. Mr. Magallanes was there, I think, trying to explain some of this stuff. So it was very confusing. And if I'm confused, and I don't even do planning and zoning, I would assume that constituents and others, as they read this, will be very confused. I'm concerned about drainage. I think Kathy Matthews had some really good points about drainage and what to do around, infrastructure. Infrastructure is not there, obviously, and I'm a bit concerned just how the process by which everything was outlined. So, David, help me understand, what you're asking for here specifically, and is it accurate? Mr. Magallanes indicated that this money goes into this fund, but not necessarily used specific for this project.
Mayor and Mayor Pro Tem, basically the simplest thing that'll happen is there's currently one lot there now, and if they wanted to come in for a building permit, the city would issue that. There would be no additional right-of-way dedicated to the city. There would be no improvements required. When they decided to split it into a second lot, it triggered these improvements. And the way our ordinances are written, they either have to build their portion, so they build half of that right-of-way. That's 20 feet. So just for simple reason, well, in my mind, I don't know if it's simple, but
that's because you do it all the time. And you see this every day. I don't. So.
Arterial usually has 2 traffic lanes in each direction. So if that were the standard, that would be 24 feet of pavement with what they would be required. Since there's a 20-foot of pavement out there, we can subtract 10 feet. So that requires roughly another 34 feet, 32 feet. They would be responsible to pave and put a curb and gutter in. So what we often hear as a city is that you're just going to put out additional pavement in front of the property. You have curb and gutter here, and potentially on this side of the street. And so on either side of it, you don't have those improvements taking place. Back to the plat, they are providing the property, and so there's less property they can use. That property does have value. If the city were ever come back at a later date to develop this, they will have to probably purchase property from folks on either side unless they don't subdivide. So the city would have to make that payment. They're agreeing that they're increasing the number of homes by one, so there is going to be more traffic on this street, but they are also providing for future improvements. The development codes do allow what's called payment in lieu, and so what would be done is the city would estimate what half of those improvements for that area would be. I contacted the Public Works Department this morning, and they said an additional 20 feet of pavement, the curb and gutter, sidewalks, et cetera, would run in the neighborhood of $35,000. So if this subdivider wanted to pay that, we wouldn't have this waiver before you today. But you have that coming forward.
David, so the curb and gutter that you're asking them to do, plus I guess 30-something odd feet of pavement, is for both sides, yes? Even the side, just that one side?
They're just responsible for half of those improvements. And so it's just half, their half to make that a whole street. And that's always been the conflict with council whenever you hear one of these, and been the difficult part for staff to estimate what is an appropriate means to do that. And I'll stop there.
Thank you, David. What about any drainage issues? I mean, even you can tell, right, where the water is running off and such.
So from a drainage standpoint, when they actually come into the building permit to locate the home, they have to retain any additional storm water that they create. And so in theory, it doesn't impact this roadway at all. The house is an area that water won't be absorbed, but they'll have to grade the lot so it goes to a ponding area, and in theory, it all stays on the parcel of land.
Okay. I think those are all my questions at this point. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Bencomo, Flores, and then Graham.
Thanks, Mayor. Thanks, David and Mr. Magallanes. I'm wondering, David, I'm sort of on Google scrolling through the street here, and I'm seeing that the only portion of Kennedy Road that has any infrastructure, like sidewalks, is there a gutter? Let me turn my camera. No.
I believe the only area that there is as you leave Elks Drive and turn into the subdivision. Once you get past that entry point, it's just a paved road. It's just a 20-foot pavement. And by looking at it, it's probably not, well, I'm almost certain it's not as today's standards, what we require.
Oh, even what is there?
Yes.
Interesting. So the rest of Kennedy Road, which I asked Council Corn if it was a dead end, and she said ish. So the rest of the road has no infrastructure at no point.
I drove out this morning, and from Elks Drive to roughly this point, or where you start seeing the signs, private property, do not enter, has that 20-foot paved lane. But that's it. No sidewalks, no curbs.
In the packet, it talks about that there have been other subdivisions within the area that have been granted road waivers and have not had to provide the necessary infrastructure. I did see, I think maybe it was the church facility you were talking about. Looks fairly new. I don't know when this particular image was. Oh, 2022. So I'm curious, which was the most recent development that was done there, and like how long ago did we give another waiver? Is what my gibberish is trying to ask you.
Mayor and Councilor Bacomo, I don't think my answer is going to help you a lot. My understanding is that this parcel dedicated the property and was granted the waiver. That's directly north of the parcel. My understanding is this parcel paid the fee in lieu of and granted the right-of-way. So everybody that's subdivided has granted right-of-way to the city. Now, it may be vice versa. These people may have been, or this property owner may have been granted the waiver and this one paid the fee in lieu. I'm not sure, but I think it shows you the difficulty of dealing with these situations is they've been treated on a case-by-case basis and what the feeling is. I think the long-term solution, and this is that eventually, if it's deemed that Engler Road needs to be extended all the way down to the valley, that there will have to be, it will have to be put onto the city's plans. It would also need to probably see grants. It probably would need to be combined with your removal of septic tanks from the area and try to get all the funding that takes place. And then you'll have the tough decisions of, should these people be responsible for paying some of that back, or is it something that improves the entire city and is worth building? So,
I'm looking at the property right to the north of the property in question. I mean, I don't know that I would consider that a sidewalk, if I'm being totally honest.
I'm sorry.
I don't know if I would consider that a sidewalk, if I'm totally honest.
I don't believe one's constructed there.
Okay.
It's just maybe some fences that people have put around their yards, and I believe that they are right up to these varying right-of-ways also. I think you can see that in, so people have improved their property, and you'll see the fences on both sides of the street.
Yes, like I said, David, you don't know then, there seems to, I think this, it looks like a commercial building. I can't really tell what it is. Maybe 1199 Kennedy Road. It looks pretty new and like they built a driveway, but no road infrastructure.
Yeah, it's got like a parking lot.
It's huge.
Is this track?
It's right next door.
This is a church of some kind, and I believe that Mr. Magiana spoke about some of these lots have been there a large period of time, and these right-of-ways. Since it is a legal lot in a subdivision, the treatment by the city is to allow that building permit to take place.
Okay, so you don't know then if this specific property, I'm assuming they also got a waiver.
I don't think so. I think they owned the lot outright, and they weren't subdividing, so they were allowed the permit. Some of the Elephant Butte subdivisions don't even have the 20 feet of pavement. They're just dirt, just again to provide context.
Okay, well this is a pretty difficult decision. I feel like, you know, as councils we sort of inherit the decisions of previous councils, as the councils ahead of us will inherit our decisions. I just, you know, as I'm looking at it, I find it hard to see this one piece of property improved when the rest has not yet been. So, you know, I hope in the future we do see road improvements to this community, and but I know that sounds like it might be kind of far away. So, their problem. I'm just kidding. I'm totally just kidding. Thank you, David.
Thank you. Councilor Flores, Councilor Graham.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And thank you, Mr. Weir, for your presentation. So there's a lot of ifs and maybes in approving if we were to vote no on and make this happen. And the nightmare that comes to my mind is, with all due respect to residents of Hacienda Acres, is Hacienda Acres. And so the question is, does the city have any kind of a plan whereby we don't take everything on a fly-by-night type of, you know, one-by-one thing, case? So, for example, if we were to vote no on this, the the property owners would be able to do whatever, everything that you said, and then there's going to be a sidewalk on one side but not on the other. And I was just wondering, because Hacienda Acres was acquired from the county in 1986, and that was, what, like 36, 37 years ago? I don't know. But very little has been accomplished there. And the septic tanks, they're in the process of being replaced, I believe. I don't think that project has yet been completed, but it was after many years of trying to get that done. So David, Mr. Weir, is there a plan, and I'm not saying it has to look like Disneyland or anything, but is there any kind of plan that you would have that is that regulates, I remember when we were talking about the desert, that other business on the corner of Talbrook and University, and we're asking about the septic tank there, and there's problems with extensions and all that. But coming back to this, it just seems that there's no real plan as to what the city should look like and be like. I think I really encourage everybody to take a cruise, to just cruise the city and look at the possibilities. And it seems to me that we should have a plan that every prospective buyer should be aware of and has to comply with. Is that possible? Is that would that be any way? I'm trying to think of people that already own land, but prospective purchases of land. Is there any plan like that, or is it just something that whatever homeowner or property owner wants to do, they come to the P&Z, and then if they don't get what they want, they come to City Council, and then we sit here scratching our heads? But my question, Mr. Weir, is there any city planning, anything that, you want uniform streets? It looks like that only happens when there's a new development, like in the East Mesa. That's my question. Not the East Mesa part, the part about having a overall plan on undeveloped lots.
Mayor and Council Flores, in a citywide sense, yes, there's a couple things. The Elevate Las Cruces has a major thoroughfare plan of the city, and it has all of your policies for the development of new streets, and also the maintenance and reconstruction of other streets. The other component of that is any right-of-way that's dedicated by the city, it's on the city maintenance program. So the city does go out and prioritize improvements over time. The longer-term question of that is many of these areas that have legally dedicated and accepted right-of-ways to the city are below today's standards. And so when requests like this come in, there's a desire that all the codes are written to bring us to conformance of what our standards are. So the only relief that is allowed to them is this waiver request as it goes forward right now. There have been areas in the East Mesa that have used block grant monies and have built roads, and the city has sometimes built them in less right-of-way, and the cross-sections have been less than what you saw for this particular area. If somebody were to come in and subdivide off those, you wouldn't see this request because that was used with city funds. There was an approval by city council. It would have been deemed to be a city street that's used. So.
I'm aware of Elevate Las Cruces and all that sort of stuff. I mean, but to me, it's almost like a a dream, a beautiful plan that can't be implemented because of this, that, and the other. So can you in any way look at the plan and then look at what I mean, it just seems like it's a patchwork. And it seems to me if we are going to follow Elevate Las Cruces, we would have a plan, an overall plan for the entire city of the do's and don'ts, and then put prospective buyers and even existing property owners on notice. And then we also want to get away from septic tanks. So what's, you know, we still have, I mean, we're living in the dark ages here. Are there any ordinances that can go, not ordinances, but just a plan so that, you know, buyer beware. This is what, you know, this is what you are buying. This is what the city requires. Doesn't the city have that autonomy or that?
I would say yes, we do, and that's our subdivision and design standards. I think the end of what you're saying is, you're saying the city's policy is if it's below standard, we don't want you to subdivide the property. The city's never taken that stance. They've always said,
Mr. Weir, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying, if that's what I said means to you, I'm just saying it just doesn't make sense that there's just so much patchwork going on. And then, so we're going to have a sidewalk on one side, and then there's going to be, and then the road isn't going to be touched because it'll just stay like that, right? And then we want to put bike lanes in there. That's going to, you know, nothing is really planned. There seems to be no real plan in terms of the entire city. And so we are constantly going to be hearing from appeals. This is an appeal from the P&Z on behalf of the city, right?
no, this is the property owner asking to be.
Oh, the property owner. Oh, that's why Mr. Magallanes.
Yeah, the way these.
If I can jump in real quick, Dave. So if I may, Councilor Flores, let me just share something with you. So I think you were out of town when I had my State of the City, and I kind of did a recap of how it was in '07. The reason why the city implemented this is because at that time, your district, my district at that time, was just on fire. They were building so much, and so there was different plot owners, and this was the most equitable way of saying, hey, you're going to pay for half of this side, because they knew the other owner would have to pay the other, and then that's how we could build it. And so this has never been removed. That's why they're asking for a waiver, because this was really done for District 6, because it was just, actually there was the one developer who actually did do half of the median. He did half of everything, and it didn't look very good. Half of the median was rocked, and the other was dirt, and so, but if I may, now, you're right, it was annexed in 1986, and if I could go back in time, now I was not on the council at the time, I wasn't even on the commission, but when the residents became city residents, their insurance rates dropped by about $500 a year. What could have been done was, because it affected about 7,500 residents, it's about $3.7 million. What they could have done, instead of seeing that huge, I mean, that was a nice rebate for them, or reduction in their overall costs, but that could have been used to help bond roads for that whole area. Back then, you could have done you could have probably done that East Mesa for $30 to $40 million for a lot of those arterials. Back in the 80s, mid-80s. Well, I'm just saying, if that was the plan, but that's going back. So I guess what I'm trying to say is the reason why this was implemented was a lot of it was because of those developers were just, I mean, there was subdivisions like you wouldn't believe, just going here, 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 all over, and this was the way of making each landowner responsible for their portion. That was why this was implemented.
So let's move forward to 2023 and the Realize Las Cruces. My question remains, can't we have some sort of overall plan that wouldn't create these problems? Or somehow are they grandfathered into what existed at the time? And so, you know, what's the point of having Elevate Las Cruces, the comprehensive plan?
Can I jump in there again? So I hear what you're saying, but keep in mind, we should be thanking the landowners, because most of the times they're wanting to build in the newer part of the city. Think about how many times the city has tried to come up with infill lots, so infill incentives for them to try to build inside the city, and they won't. In fact, I've heard some of our colleagues say, why can't you build here in the older core of the city? Well, they don't want to. But this, as you heard Mr. Magallanes say, it was 1911. That was a long time ago. So, I mean, for them to want to build in that area, well, I'll just give you my list, if I may. I'm supporting this. Let me tell you why. Because in 1995, when I was a county commissioner, I still remember when they put Engler Road that was supposed to connect to Interstate 25, and it hasn't yet. It's a long time, okay? It's an infill lot. We'll put it on the tax rolls. It'll help control dust. It'll provide some sense of affordable housing. Be able to utilize the utilities that are there. And just like years ago, we used to have the park fees. That's, I think, what the gentleman was saying. We used to have these park fees, and you put it in there, and then there was no park we ever built, and the city had this money, and then we had to just give it back, or we had to put it in some other way to spend it. And so it's not very equitable, but this is what we have here today. That's why I said I'm going to be supporting it.
Well, Mr. Mayor, it seems to me, though, that there's only one home that's going to be added to these changes, right? Because it's a mobile home there, one, and then another one would go up, and that's it. So, yes? And then we don't know if it's affordable, and to whom, anyway. I mean...
Mayor and Councilor Flores, maybe I can frame this a little bit. All of the planning and land development codes come down to health, safety, and public welfare. So I think what the mayor was saying was getting to the gist of it. Will one additional lot overtax that road? Will it create a drainage problem? Will it cause a public safety problem? Are police and fire unable to respond to that area? I think that may give you a lens to look at this and view. If you feel that it would not create that issue, then I think you could vote yes for the waiver. If you think it burdens and creates a safety issue for somebody, then a vote no would support that position. So just a way to think about it.
Well, actually, it's the other way around. If you vote yes, you're supporting the waiver, and if you vote no, you're not. So it would just leave the status quo as is.
Right, you're not creating, by putting another house there, you're not creating additional demand for public service.
Okay, we have Councilor Graham.
Thank you, Mayor. Sorry, I'm going to ask for a re-clarification on these votes. A yes vote means the property owners can subdivide and do not have to do anything to the road. A no vote means that if they subdivide, they would have to do stuff to the road.
Mayor and Councilor Graham, correct.
Okay, great. So I was, doing the reading, and actually the way I was thinking, Mayor just kind of clarified for me. And I recognize that I'm using a layperson's vocabulary, and David, please jump in and correct me at any time. So I'm thinking about this. When we're talking about subdivisions, what I picture in my mind is somebody coming in and building 50 houses, and I think of it as like a subdivision. And the way Mayor was talking, that's kind of where my mind was going too. So I recognize the spirit of this ordinance, meaning that a big builder can't come in, put up a ton of houses, make a big profit, and then be like, haha, I'm not going to do anything for infrastructure. This kind of subdivision, we're talking about dividing a lot, to me, it's a very different proposition. And again, and I know that you can get really dangerous when you do like letter of the law, spirit of the law stuff, but to me, this is not the kind of situation that we were trying to protect the city against. So as long as I've not totally butchered the ideas of subdivisions. But if I am, tell me.
No, Mayor and Councilor Graham, from an ordinance standpoint, a subdivision is any split of land, but there definitely is a scale issue between 100 lots being created and 2.
Okay, great. Yeah, that solidifies it for me, and the vote too. So thank you. I think I get it.
Okay.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Is there any comments from the public? Okay, seeing none. Christine? Did you need a clarification on the yes and no vote? Oops. Okay, yes means to approve. No, okay.
This is on the motion to approve Resolution 23-141. Counselor Abeyta?
Yes.
Counselor Graham?
Yes to approve the waiver that they can subdivide, and no road improvements have to be made. Then yes.
Counselor Bencomo?
Yes.
Counselor Cran?
Yes.
Counselor Flores?
Yes.
Counselor Gondeta?
Yes.
Mayor?
Yes. Okay, next is item 8.4, Council Bill 23-033, ordinance number 3039.
Move to approve.
Second, Graham.
Motion made by Councilor Abeyta, second by Councilor Graham. And Chris Faber will be discussing.
Good afternoon, everybody.
Good afternoon.
Hopefully this one will be a lot easier. All right, good afternoon, everyone. Chris Faber with Economic Development for the record. Today we're going to be talking about some additions to our local economic development plan, our LEDA plan. And we've also invited Senator Carrie Hamblin here to discuss, because one of these new additions involves one of her projects. So real quick, Local Economic Development Act, or LEDA, must be adopted via ordinance. And so what we're doing today is we're amending it to include a couple different classifications. One of them is going to be an option for retail LEDA, and the other one is going to be an option for catastrophic LEDA funds. Under our existing plan, we have 2 models, and again, these are not changing, we're just adding to them. So under the first model is the preferred model, and this model is used when we are giving LEDA funds to projects that fall within our key industries and have jobs with above average salaries. The basic model is for other projects that the city supports that may not fit into the key industries category or with respect to the jobs, the salaries. So what we are looking to include is a local model and a catastrophic model. So there were changes made to the LEDA statute at the state level that allows municipalities to engage in retail LEDA or local LEDA projects independent of funding from the state. So that's what the local model will do. It will give the city the ability to work on smaller scale retail LEDA projects that does not include participation from the state. The catastrophic model will be funded through junior bill money that Senator Hamblin acquired for the purposes of creating a fund to assist local businesses who may have some sort of a catastrophic situation at their business that without this funding would mean that they may go out of business permanently or for a very long period of time. So a brief overview of what the local model requirements are. Businesses with a capital investment of at least $250,000. And what this does is it allows the city to include retail into our LEDA projects, like I said before. This does give us a little bit more flexibility to look at things and benchmarks that go beyond just specifically job creation. And again, as I said, this does not include funding from the state. This is only local LEDA funding. And it will be treated the same way as the current LEDAs are, where they will all be approved via an ordinance. Under the catastrophic model, I've provided just kind of a brief definition of what catastrophic looks like for this program, but basically it's an incident in a sudden and devastating event that can cause significant harm or damage to a business, whether it be a natural disaster, man-made event, act of terrorism, technological failure, something along those lines that would cause significant disruption or potential shutdown to that business. So the process for this particular model, it will be funded with $150,000 in junior bill money secured by Senator Hamlin. It must be used by the end of the fiscal year 24. We're hoping that this could potentially be a statewide pilot program. So there's a lot of success we're hoping for this project. Intended to assist businesses who have experienced a significant loss. And we're looking to do awards somewhere between $5,000 and $10,000. And once we receive the applications, they will be reviewed by staff in economic development and Senator Hamlin as well. The LEDA ordinance for the entire $150,000 will be coming before you on July 3rd. And if approved, those funds will be available by mid-July. And then we will be doing separate CLC agreements known as a PPA for each recipient. There will be no, under this particular model, there will be no need to do a separate ordinance. We will do that via the agreement. And because the nature of the funding, staff will expedite the process through the city to get funds to the business as quickly as possible. And on the back end, we'll be working with Senator Hamlin's office and the recipients on post-award funding evaluations. So I will stand for questions, but I will also invite Senator Hamlin down to talk a little bit further about her project, and then you can certainly ask her or myself any questions.
Thanks, Chris. If we could withhold comments until Senator Hamlin finishes, and then we'll go from there.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, Council, and thank you, Chris, and the Economic Development Department for this. I do want to give a little bit of background. And
excuse me, Senator.
Yes, my name is Kerry Hamblin. I'm here in multiple capacities, actually. Because we're talking about this, I'm here using my state senator cap, but also understanding the impact for our small businesses, also wearing my cap from the Las Cruces Green Chamber of Commerce. My colleague, Debbie Moore, with the Greater Las Cruces Chamber of Commerce, had to leave, but she gave us permission to express her support of this, and I do want to give you just a little bit of history on this. The reason for the fund, I was thinking about this, is that, many years ago when I first started with the Las Cruces Green Chamber of Commerce, the Mountain View Market Co-op had their freezer go out, their produce case. And this was something that was really detrimental to this business. Most recently, a local brewery had a fire in their kitchen, and they've been shut down for several months. And we know that our small businesses have challenges in terms of getting access to really quick turnaround money when it comes down to needing help. Now, mind you, this isn't a handout. This is something that the Economic Development Department has procedures in place for. But I want to give you a little background, kind of where it started, was when this last legislative session, talking with the Secretary of the Education of the Economic Development Department, Alicia Keys, and the Deputy Secretary, John Clark, and said, we need to have a way to have quick turnaround money that will help our small businesses. How can we do that? And I had texted Elizabeth Teeters, and I had texted and talked with Debbie Moore, and I said, we need to find ways to do that. And Elizabeth Teeters was on it actually really quickly with John Clark to find out that we could actually do this under LEDA funds without violating the state's anti-donation clause. And there are specifics that they know way more than I do about when it comes down to LEDA funding. But after having this conversation, and after Elizabeth Teeters having the conversation with John Clark and talking about this with Secretary Keys, we were able to find out that if I could go ahead and designate $150,000 of junior money as a test program for this, You know, we're often, those of us in southern New Mexico get a little tired and a little crabby when we hear people in the upper part of the state say that they know what they're doing and that they do it better and that they can help southern New Mexico. I have a tendency of correcting people's narrative when they do that in my capacity as state senator. And I think in southern New Mexico, we are doing incredible things, and we are innovative, we are creative, we are also adaptive, we understand what our community needs. And so when Elizabeth Teeters talked to John Clark and found out that we could do this through LEDA funding, which was really quick, mind you, because when the bill drops for junior money, we literally have 3 days to designate that to projects. And so there was a lot of hustle on behalf of the Economic Development Department. And I'm really grateful that we can actually do this, because what I see, we're hearing from the executive at the state, is ways to try and help our small businesses more. Because I can tell you that some of the programs at the State Economic Development Department, and we even have this conversation with the Economic Development Department here, a lot of our small businesses don't know what programs are available to them, or the bureaucracy seems, and it makes it out of reach for them. Whereas this program, serving as a pilot program that I would like to bring to the governor to be something that would be done something throughout the state, I feel that Las Cruces can be leading that example by providing quick turnaround assistance to our small businesses when they have a catastrophe. And so with this, I do see it as an example for the rest of the state. I am grateful for the partnerships with the Economic Development Department, with my colleague Debbie Moore at the Greater Las Cruces Chamber, and I hope that you will also support this idea because, and I do want to make sure that when we talk about Senator Hamblin's office, it's actually the Green Chamber, because I want to make sure that my decision-making or whatever is not going to impact that. There's criteria that Elizabeth and her department have come up with that makes that very nonpartisan. But also as the Green Chamber, that's where I get to come in as nonpartisan. So I do want to make sure that that's clarifying. I would love to continue giving money to this, and I think it would be great if the city designated some money for this, if we, down the line, as Councilor Bencomo talked about, councils in the future having to deal with the decisions that are made today. But I hope that this is a thoughtful decision. I do feel very positive about this being a good experience and a good program and a good model for the rest of the state. And so I can tell you, this money's waiting come July 1st. It's going to be here, so let's use it. Let's see how we can do this. $5,000 to $10,000 may not be a huge amount to some, but I'm thinking of our local brewery that could have paid their deductible and helped them get on their way. So it's some small essence, and I know that Elizabeth Teeters and Chris can also talk about if you have any specifics, but at this point I finished because I don't want to keep holding on the floor because I also have to go and get my oil changed because I have to go to Santa Fe tomorrow. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, Council.
Thank you, Senator. I appreciate it. Appreciate all you do and all the hard work you do for us here in Las Cruces, Doña Ana County. Okay, Councilor Coran.
I just have a couple. I appreciate you all putting sort of your stamp on this. I think I wince a little at the expression of catastrophic because sometimes we hear about things that are not actually catastrophic in community, and I think that it's important to emphasize that there are sort of guidelines that you all have developed to help think about what that looks like. But I do have a question about the local benchmarks other than employment. What other kinds of benchmarks will it include, and are these things that we're already measuring? Is this something that we should include potentially in other lead-up conversations? Just out of curiosity. Thank you.
Sure. Mr. Mayor, Councilor Cran. So under the state LEDA statute, it does say in-kind service, jobs, expansion of tax base, property, or other things of service of value for the expansion of the economy. So those are written into the statute and can be used to factor into decisions related to LEDA funding only on the local level. So, well, I mean, the state uses the jobs criteria and capital investment specifically for theirs, but when it's something related to just municipal funds, we do have a little bit more flexibility there. So that's where we work with the formula that we create internally and kind of figure out what the best match is for that business and the best partnership, and then we develop those benchmarks accordingly with the business and with our department to make sure that they're attainable and at the end of the day, they're providing a service back to the community for those funds.
Thank you. That's super helpful, that context. So this is kind of missing, I guess, is what you're getting at from the existing LIDA.
Mr. Mayor, Councilor Cran, yes, our current LIDA plan does not include these, and so we are going to include this, both the catastrophic and the local model, which the state now allows under changes to the state LIDA statute for the local retail LIDA options.
That's great, thank you. Those are all the questions, but I do just want to say also thank you for, on the other side of this, thinking about this local business thing in your distribution of the TID funds for local businesses as well. So thank you for putting this forward and thinking of other state level funding. So thank you, Senator Hanlon, and thanks, Chris.
Councilor Flores, Councilor Bencomo.
Thank you, Mayor. And thank you, Chris, and thank you, Carrie, for expanding on this. The junior money will expire at the end of fiscal year 24. Is that correct? What happens if there's a balance? Let's just hope there isn't a lot of catastrophe in the city of Las Cruces.
Mr. Mayor, Councilor Flores, I believe it reverts back to the state.
It reverts back to the state. And then the city will be measuring, the Economic Development Department will be measuring the points of success or whatever. And then will it go back to the House or the roundhouse as a bill to make this a permanent funding, or what happens then?
If I may, Mr. Mayor and Council, we've already talked about the data points that we want to make sure that we collect in this, in terms of the money that goes out, what assistance it's used for, so on and so forth. I want to bring that back and pitch that to the executive to try and have a bill come up either in this next session or the following session, because we do at the state level have a forecast of about 7 to 8 more years of being flush with money, but then after that, no, it's going to drop. And so I would like this to become a budget item that the governor's office and the state implement throughout the state. Sorry, I've been talking a lot today. So it's something that we would bring forward, and we would see if it would come into a bill or if the governor would make it as an executive order.
And if it's either a bill that passes or an executive order, it institutionalizes the funding for, okay, great.
Yeah.
I want to thank you, Senator, for being here today and for being at our Economic Development Policy Review Committee where this was presented to Councilor Abeyta, Mayor Pro Tem, and myself. And thank you, Chris, for your work on this as well. Thank you.
Councilor Bencomo.
Thanks, Mayor. Thank you, Chris and Senator Hamlin. I do agree with you that we are innovative, and this to not be confused with the other recent program that Economic Development came up with to support businesses who had property damage or graffiti. So, thank you very much for these programs. I do actually have a question that you mentioned, the brewery that happens to be in my district, that honestly I haven't even heard updates since March, which is just sad because it's a very beloved place. If this would be retroactive at all, or are we saying as of July 1st, if you experience some sort of catastrophic event, or is there an ability to be retroactive?
Unfortunately, Mr. Mayor and Council, it starts on July 1st because that's when the money is available. So,
right.
But I used that. I mean, it was just, unfortunately, it was a perfect storm in timing to kind of spark that conversation and what can we do? And I do want to commend the Economic Development Department and also the State Economic Development Department, because they were all like, oh my gosh, we need to be doing this. And they were grateful, when Liz talked to John Clark, they were grateful that we were willing to go ahead and try and figure this out.
Yeah.
And try and make it work.
That is unfortunate, but also, I think a little silver lining to have come out of that, so I appreciate it. And then I want to get on my soapbox a little bit because you mentioned a handout. I really dislike that we've made handout a bad thing, because literally it's like, oh, you're in need, let me give you my hand out to help you. So it's not a bad thing. I addressed it. Thank you. Extending a hand is a good thing, neighbors.
Okay, any other questions? How about members of the public? Okay, seeing none. Christine?
This is on the motion to approve ordinance 3039. Counselor Abeta?
Yes.
Counselor Graham?
Yes.
Counselor Bencomo?
Yes.
Counselor Cran?
Yes.
Counselor Flores?
Yes.
Counselor Gondeta?
Yes.
Mayor?
Yes. Okay, next. Thank you. We go to 8.5, Council Bill 23-034, ordinance number 3040.
Move to approve, Graham.
Second, Abeta.
Motion made by Councilor Graham, seconded by Councilor Abeta. Celicia Villegas will be presenting.
Good afternoon, Mayor, City Council. Last but not least, right? Today I'm here to present the proposed ordinance of another sale of city-owned land at the Las Cruces Innovation and Industrial Park to BHD Land Development, LLC. So as we know, one of the city's strategic goals is to stimulate and entice business development, and this sale will help us continue that goal. And I just wanted to preface that if approved, this would also be the city's first fast-track project, so we're really excited about that. Council, if you recall, you adopted the fast-track process back in January of this year, where CD and ED teamed up to find a way to accelerate the review and approval of economic development projects. So this project has checked all the boxes, and in fact, they already have gone through some of the steps. So I'd just like to take the time to give kudos to community development and economic development, and as well all the supporting departments, public works, utilities, on this effort. So in addition, this project also, to note, has not asked for any additional incentives. They've invested a lot of upfront due diligence and planning, and which is not typical at this stage. So it does show their commitment and desire to be in our community. I'll also add that although the buyer of this property is a development company, it is a build-to-suit project. And I'll be referring any project questions to the buyer's representative, which is here, as there is a level of confidentiality at this time. So he'll try to address the questions as needed, as best as he can. So moving along. The subject property is actually 2 parcels, which combined approximately 17.53 acres. And the legal description is lots A3 and A5 of the West Mesa Industrial Park, number 26, replat number 1. And the address of record right now is 401 and 431 Alliance Drive, and all city utilities are to the site. So here's a vicinity map. You can see the property outlined in red is just south of I-10. If there's there you go. Love's Truck Stop is right here in the southwest corner of the ramp. Our subject properties here in the red, and Alaska Structures are to the west of this. Here's just a picture of the subdivision plat. It actually fronts 3 roads: Ray Boulevard to the west, Industrial Park Avenue to the south, and Alliance Drive on the east. Here's a street view. This is looking down Ray Boulevard. Alaska Structures would be to the right, and the property is to the left behind those trees there. And this is the opposite side off Alliance Drive. To the west is the property. So 2 appraisals were completed, $581,700 and $580,000 even. The offer and negotiated price was $581,700. The parties will both split the closing costs, which is typical practice. Some of the benefits to the city is that this does align with the strategic plan goals of the city, the Economic Development Department, and Elevate Las Cruces. 50% of the sales proceeds will be going to the Affordable Housing Trust Fund. And as a city-owned property earmarked for economic development, it will be absorbed for development and productive use. The buyer will be developing a distribution facility, bringing added jobs to and investment to the area. And although we don't have exact amounts of this jobs and investment, it will have a significant impact and presence to our community. So as city property is tax exempt, transferring it to private hands will put it on the tax tolls. And here's just the site layout of the development. The proposed building is right in the center here. You've got Ray Boulevard to the west and Alliance Drive to the east, and the proposed building is approximately 44,000 square feet, and as you can see, it's a distribution center. And here is the elevations of the building, and we have community development. Actually, the developer has submitted plans as of Friday. So our community development department will be ensuring that they meet all the standards of the industrial park overlay. And with that, your standard council options, I do have Mr. Steve Backman with BH DevCo in the audience, and we'll both stand for questions. Thank you.
Let me just ask a quick question, Councilor. So, Celicia, when we sold some land also in the last year or two since, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I just want to commend you. Ever since I think EFO came here and brought his management team, the way you all have marketed, because prior to that, we weren't selling anything out there, and it was great land. It's great opportunities. So I just want to thank you all for what you do.
Mayor,
yes.
thank you.
Councilor Flores.
Ditto. Thank you, Celicia. And so it's going to be a distribution plant. And I know that when, what's the name of the cheese pack, Spumoto or?
Saputo.
Saputo, I got the, okay. One of the questions I had then as to their expansion, and I have now, is transportation in terms of, do the developer or the business owner, I mean, we need transportation out in that part, that neck of the woods, as they say, because it's kind of far away from the city, and I don't think our buses run out there. I don't think SCRTD runs out there, and I'm just, that's one concern I have, and it's something that I'm just expressing to you and maybe the planning department, community development, in terms of keeping that in mind. And it's kind of hush-hush as to what that distributor, who the distributor is. Yes, it's a big secret, but we're going to be happily surprised, I'm sure. Okay.
Mayor, Councilor Flores, you are correct. And just to know, as a matter of fact, about a year ago, I sent out a survey to the industrial park tenants and the airport on transportation. Didn't get very many back, but just recently, Saputo sent back 250 handwritten surveys. So we actually have one of our nice county interns working through that right now. But at least it'll give us some more perspective on that to give to our transportation director to show if there's a need out there for transportation.
Right, and what I'm hoping too is, or what I would like to see, more than just hope, is that we focus on the importance of making sure our airport has more than interstate travel. I know that Andy's working, and you have worked very hard on that as well. But in, keeping all that in mind in terms of making it really attractive to even more businesses. So thank you, sir, for bringing your business to the city. But I hope we can do that. Thank you, Celicia, and thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Any other comments? So, Councilor Flores, I think in the future, depending how and the way the Economic Development Department has been selling land out there, I think you're probably going to eventually see, or I guess I should suggest maybe in the future, to look at a dedicated bus line because that's going to be really attractive, much like what we do with the university. We have a dedicated bus just for the students. And who knows, maybe you might want to consider just like 1 or 2 electric vehicle buses, right? Just going back and forth, because that's a long, it doesn't look like it's a long way, but it's kind of a long way. And I think that this is really exciting news to just see it slowly developing. And Connie and Andy Hume and I and Senator Souls, we met with the organization on Monday, just for a brief time, and there's a lot of things happening. You're going to see the airport really start to do some great things, and that land is a great value right now, but I see it becoming more and more valuable as time goes on. Yeah. So that's why I think we should double the price. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just joking. I'm just messing. If there's no questions, how about members of the public? Davin.
Can I say one thing first? Sorry.
Of course.
I like not being asked questions, so thank you. But I want to take this opportunity. I'm Steve Backman. I'm the owner of and one of the founders of a company called BH DevCo. So BHD Land Development is the LLC that we put the property under contract for. We are a builder of build-to-suit properties, not of speculative developments. So there is an end user behind this deal. I was hoping to be asked a question so I could at least say, your staff is amazing, Mr. Mayor. We have had a great experience working here. I was telling Celicia Villegas the other day that we started another project in another state nearby, and that project started a month before this one. It's the exact same building for the same user, and you're now a month ahead. So this expedited review, this expedited process, Connie, Elizabeth, everyone that we've worked with here, staff, ED, CD, everyone has been phenomenal. So kudos to staff. Thank you very much. We look forward to continuing to move along on this project. So thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Mayors, councilors, Davin Lopez, Mesilla Valley Economic Development Alliance. I know there's a little bit of anonymity behind the project, but I just want to say we hope you do approve this sale. I think you're going to find that the company itself is going to be complementing and adding a lot of value to what we're trying to accomplish to really build a logistics and production center at the industrial park on the west side. So we really do hope you approve this because I think you're going to be happy with what comes out of it. Thank you.
Thanks, Davin. Do you have something else, Celicia?
I just wanted to thank Davin also with it. He's an integral part of the whole process. So thank you, Davin and team.
Right. All right. No other further comments? Seeing none. Christine.
This is on the motion to approve ordinance 3040. Councilor Abeyta?
Yes.
Councilor Graham?
Yes.
Councilor Bencomo?
Yes.
Councilor Coran?
Yes.
Councilor Flores?
Yes.
Councilor Gondara?
Yes.
Mayor?
Yes. Okay, great. Well, next, we're going to go to board appointments, and we have none. So next is notice of proposed ordinances. Number 10.1, Council Bill number 23-035, ordinance number 3041.
Bring it forward.
Bring forward. 10.2, Council Bill number 23-036, ordinance number 3042.
Bring it forward.
Okay, bring it forward. And now we go to City Council member board reports and comment. I'm just going to slowly start moving some of my stuff out, right? And so I can keep it. I want to kind of replicate it at my other office, right?
How about those pictures of your mayor's kids?
Well, I don't know. So this was my thinking. If the city paid for the framing, well, then it's the city's. But there was one that I want to pay the city for, the framing, and that's when President Obama was elected and then Vice President. This was my stuff, but the city framed it. But I wanted to pay for the frame so I could take that back. So I'm sure, gosh, it's a nice frame. Probably back then it was a couple $100, $200, $300 at least. So if I could have staff take a look and see what price it would cost. Market price, that's fine.
600.
Okay, well, whatever. So this is back when the president still, his hair was still, it wasn't white. And that's it. So if you see me taking a few things out, it is my stuff, okay? So I'm not stealing. In fact, I'll try it, take it. Yeah, that's my refrigerator. It is mine. I'll take it during the day in the daylight. So it's not like it's at 2 o'clock in the morning on a Saturday. And hey, you see the cameras of me carrying stuff out. Okay, that's all I have. Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Mayor. I wanted to comment on the veterans, all the various public comment today. I want them to understand that for me, when people come to public comment, it's an opportunity for council really to understand what the public is concerned about, what gripes, et cetera, et cetera. I listen carefully and I consider all possibilities, and quite frankly, I really hate that they think they've been disrespected, because it's so far from the truth. Being a mom of a Navy veteran, I respect so much what they've done for our country, and I was hoping that they would understand that it was a difficult decision. Hey, I'm emotional. It was an emotional to have the parents come up and speak on behalf of their child who died in that area. So for me, it was about coming to a compromise that I thought was everybody could live with. And in fact, I thought that compromise was, having a bench and a tree that honored that little girl and her life, as short-lived as it was, in an area where our veterans had fought so fearlessly, right, to protect the rights of everybody. I don't feel like it was something that we would set a precedence on or in. That what I understood was that the bench would be separate and apart from the beauty of and what the essence of that sacred ground has been. So if you're listening, I'm happy to have those conversations. I don't make it a habit to speak to people, right, from the various committees and whatnot. There's just so much work to be done. And, we're being criticized for not making a call over to the veterans. And what they feel, I'm sorry that they feel that way, but I'm available to have those conversations and really continue to stand by my vote. I felt like it was something that we were trying to find a compromise that everybody could live with. And so, Mayor, I also wanted to speak in regards to the number of comments related to speeding. I think all of us would agree that we probably get couple to 5 emails a week around speeding in neighborhoods. It's really out of control. And I keep thinking, and what can the city do to address that, to mitigate that? And some of it is personal responsibility, right? People need to slow down. It feels like we get blame for a lot of that. There's a number of things I think that council could do, and some of those are, I like the idea of the mobile speed vans, but I've also talked about toying with the idea of reducing speed, especially in residential, submitting an ordinance to reduce speed, especially in residential areas. I think it's too fast, and we're hearing more and more, and I don't think it's going to, I don't think we're going to stop hearing it. I think people also need to slow down, and there's just so much that our police officers can do. They're stretched pretty thin, And they're really dealing with some very serious issues in community. And unfortunately, speeding is probably right lowest on that list. And so, I'd like to, I don't know where we would talk about reducing speed limit and some of the other things, but I really want to Ikani, Mr. Damateo, and staff to really consider bringing some of those things back related to what we have heard in the last couple of years around the speed humps. We get a variety of communication or staff input about how they feel about speed humps, and there's a process by which, but people are coming saying it cannot happen at all, when I know there's 2 or 3 areas in my district that are working on getting a speed humps in their neighborhoods. So I think we need to come up with a variety of programs to address that, but it is getting out of hand, and I don't see it changing. And I think I'd like to see staff come up with some sort of plan from sort of the lowest levels, right, to what could be done in terms of other processes. And with that, I'll turn it back over to you, Mayor. Thank you.
Sure. Thanks, Mayor Pro Tem. If I could just speak very candid, just a couple of things. First, let me just talk about what you were saying about the roads. I think, in all fairness to staff, probably need to have a few that you want to be looked at, because I think, just like anything else, that has to conform to that those guidelines that the traffic control has, because I think Councilor Flores can attest to this. I learned how to drive accidentally as a teenager on the California freeway. My dad wouldn't, he was asleep. I go, hey, Dad, wake up. And by the time we're in it, right? And I've learned that you can't, if you want to try to do the speed limit, if those drivers are driving 10 miles over, you got to stay with them, because you can go too slow and cause an accident. So that's why I think we need to have that checked out. But I think right now, thanks to Chief Dominguez, the number of officers are pretty close to where we need to be. And I don't know how EFO is going to move. He's probably going to put an interim chief, but maybe that's the time to have them come up with a way to, if they're fully staffed, to a combination, like you said, of some areas that, it's nothing like a ticket to kind of stop you to quit doing that. Many years ago, I got a ticket in Lordsburg, and it's a speed trap. Is the way I look at it. It goes from 65 to 55, and you got to just pay attention. And then maybe there are some areas that we can reduce speed. But honestly, I don't think, even those lights that tell you you're speeding. I like the ones that flash the red and blue lights, because those look, wow, is that a police officer up ahead? Or all of a sudden, did they pull someone over? And it's a sign. But anyways, that's my thought.
Yeah, I appreciate that, Mayor. I just think there's a number of things that we should consider, not just one. I think a number of things. And I'm not sure if we have authority, and maybe it's conversing with our legislators about what the state can do in terms of reevaluate. I mean, none of us, unless you seriously break the law, have to go back to driving school. You don't get any more sort of lessons around that. And I'm not sure if that's a possibility, and I'm looking at DC Mullins, maybe for kids, I don't know, but all of us need, right, maybe a refresher course. I'm not sure what to do, but I'm putting it out there because we're hearing more and more about this. And we have pedestrian fatalities, people who are on bikes getting killed. I mean, there's just for me, feels overwhelming, and I can imagine for a community in neighborhoods where folks are speeding down their neighborhood.
And also, you talk about the speed vans. Those are nice, because if we had those, you could put those strategically and move those around. And the city has believe it or not, looked at years ago. I mean, a long time ago when we had the red light cameras. And these are different than the red light cameras. These are speed bans to put in areas to help law enforcement keep the speeders from speeding. But it got to the point where the city was going to, if you were given a citation, granted it's a civil, but if you're a city resident, they were going to, and you had city services, it was going to affect your city services. Sure. I mean, and that got their attention real fast, saying, okay, well, we better pay this ticket then. So, Councilor Flores.
Thank you, Mayor. I think that, that we have to look at solutions in terms of speeding. And I want to address this to Mr. Justin Garcia, who had a quote, I believe it was a quote, but definitely stating that I drive at 100 miles an hour down Lowman. I mean, yeah. Did you see it? It was a quote, huh? And so I thought, well, maybe I did say that, but I don't do that. And so police officers and who are hearing this, I do speed, and without a doubt, but I'm not doing it anymore. Oh, I know. It's tough.
Tracy Mullins to attest to it.
Oh, no, no. But no, it was actually Mr. Lujan. Mr. Lujan, to admit to committing a crime?
No.
No. What's the first?
But I moved you with my speech.
Oh, well, Mr. Lujan actually did that, but it's okay. But I too believe that we have to look at that, but Mr. Garcia, please re-look at that. I did admit to speeding, but I've never gone 100 miles an hour. Well, I have, but in California, not here. So aside from that, I really like the city to look into Yoli. What's Yoli's last name?
Diaz.
Diaz?
Yoli Diaz.
Yeah, Yoli
D-I-A-Z.
Diaz. For some reason, her name escaped me. But to look to see if we can do something about the Tail Shore Fund being expanded to the point where it can be, if it can be. But to look into that possibility, I think that the young woman who spoke today was heartbreaking, and I hope she looks into what the cause of that was. Yeah, we'll bring it up at our Health PRC. So that was, the young lady was Nayeli. Nayeli? Oh, you're listening. Wow. I'm impressed. I did that on purpose. I just want to see who's listening. But it was oh. And also, for doctors to tell her that she had an immune, all of a sudden that there was nothing wrong. And seeing those pictures, I mean, they're worth a million words. So I really would like the city, I don't know if it's our legal department or the city manager's office, to look at whether we can use Tail Shore funds, because it is for health and the indigenous. So, yeah, and I also, I'm sorry Heather Pollard wasn't here today. I hope she's feeling better. And that's it. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
So would you like a correction in this news? I mean, what it says?
An apology, front page, headlines. There's nothing else in the newspaper anyway.
But they're going to also say now that you have admitted speeding in Los Angeles at over 100 miles an hour. So
yeah, but the statute of limitations has passed.
And
a cop didn't see me, so it doesn't count.
Okay, all right. You don't want to just leave it alone. Councilor Coran.
Well, I have learned a lot about the speeding habits of my colleagues today. Fascinating. Because, when the mayor says he sees the red and blue, I don't know, when do you see it? Because you see it when you're speeding, right?
Usually when I'm behind Councilor Flores, and she's way ahead.
She's right in front of you. Okay, that's fair. Thank you. It's good to know. I have a couple of notes from the district. We do have our new public art at the Animal Services Center. I hope you all will go and check it out. The Animal Services Center isn't open yet, so hopefully soon. our kennels will arrive and our cat cages will arrive and we can have a grand opening. But if you can see it driving by, so if you drive down the frontage road off of Rinconada, we don't know because of the delay in getting so we don't know when the grand opening can be. They also have to figure out a day when they close down so they can move or several days to close down to move everything. So that'll be a big effort. But please check out the very cool public art that is only the second public art in my district, and I look forward to more on the fire station when it arrives. The other item that I wanted to talk about really quickly was a shout out to the Parks Department, in particular Franco and Joe, who did, some residents were worried about the grass in a lot of the parks in Metro Verde in particular, and I learned something new. I really appreciate the follow-up from the parks folks in looking that up, but I also just wanted to share, in case you didn't know, hot nighttime temperatures help make the grass green. Did you guys know? Did anyone know this? This was news to me, so just as a note, Sonia did know this, but I didn't, and so now I'm informing you all that right now is prime turn the grass green time, so if you were wondering about the parks in your district, it might be because it wasn't quite hot enough at night to make them green. So thanks to the Parks Department for following up on that and identifying sort of that generally they're going to be turning green soon, but there are a few trees that might need to be replaced sometime in the future, but otherwise they're all good. So thanks for that. We have an upcoming Animal Services Board meeting on Thursday, in case folks want to show up and speak or hear what's happening with the Animal Services Board. And I do want to I know that this is out of sync and out of time, but I do want to add, I hope that we can continue the conversation about the police oversight, the OIR contract, which Councillor Flood has been influencing me in how I pronounce that. But I appreciate Mayor Pro Tem Gandara and hearing some of the things that we've shared about that, but I'm curious to hear what the next things are that are on the agenda for that ongoing conversation. I hope we can keep it up. Otherwise, that's all I have. Thanks.
Thank you. Councilor Bencomo.
Thanks, Mayor. You know what can help you stop speeding is running for office. That is a sure way to make sure you're not speeding. Somebody told me that. I heard it from a friend. Anyway, I actually I have a couple comments because 2 weeks ago, we were too tired and decided not to say anything. But at that meeting, I did want to talk about traffic calming measures. I really feel like it's systemic. I mean, I have a list here of constituents that I'm either working with that are actually like organizing or that want to be organizing. Hickory Loop, as you've heard, Melendres, as you've heard, folks on Hoagland, Bruins and Valley area at Legends West, and McClure. And so those are just, the ones that I'm currently in contact with. And so I really do feel like, whether it's a work session or some kind of conversation with the city manager's office around traffic calming and how we can, implement more of those, even if they're pilot projects. And I think I remember from the last conversation we had around this that Public Works said they had around $80,000 in a yearly budget for traffic calming measures. And so I don't know if it's important that we increase that. And I really just want to be thankful to Public Works because of projects like on Melendres, which is interesting that the folks who live in that immediate area have been very thankful for the very funky, I'm not going to lie, it's a little bit funky, but it's obviously working. And this gentleman said, you have to swerve. If you slow down, you don't have to swerve. If you slow down, it's just, a little bit of a curve. So it works. And I know it looks very strange, but it's obviously working, and the people in the area immediately around Melendres have been really thankful. I've gotten a couple of emails from people who do not like it. I imagine perhaps those are the folks that were speeding. Don't want to make any assumptions, but you never know. But I do think it's important that we have this conversation at a much larger scale because it's obviously a problem for a lot of folks. I wanted to, she's not here, but I really wanted to congratulate Natalie on her appointment to the Housing Investment Council. That was I think she was appointed by the governor. Also want to thank Amy Whitfield, who works for the governor on housing issues specifically, who was here last week, and Natalie set up a meeting with her, and staff got to meet her, and folks Community of Hope got to meet her, and some other advocates, and we're just really excited to build that relationship with the governor's office and make sure that Las Cruces continues to be invested in. I know this feels like forever ago, but I really did want to make sure and tell Visit Las Cruces what a great job they've done with the rebranding. I love the Real Las Cruces rebrand. I think that is something I often say when, I work for a national nonprofit, and so people are always like, oh, New Mexico, Santa Fe. And I'm like, Las Cruces is the real New Mexico. And so I just love it so much, and I just want to congratulate them for the rebrand. I think it's incredible. I want to introduce Megan Apodaca. She is a student at NMSU and reached out to Councilors Graham, Korn, and myself earlier this year, and she really wanted to intern at the city, and so she's interning with us, and so you'll see her around. She said she was going to intern for Senator Heinrich, and she decided to intern here instead. That's how cool we are. So if you see her, say hello. I am hearing that I'm going through this fast. I'm hearing that zero fare will be permanent. Councilor Corrin was telling me, but I'm looking at Ikani as well. You know what? EFO said it, so it's, and we're gonna make it permanent. That's the goal, that's the plan, and so people can continue riding the bus for $0. I've also been informed that they are doing surveys for people who are riding the bus to see how we can improve it and have a really robust public transportation system. And then, I did want to note that when Ms. Yoli Diaz was speaking, I heard some rumblings in the audience around how unfair it was that she got 5 minutes. But just want to remind people that if you want an additional time during public comment, that you just have to email the mayor and request time to do so. So it's not that someone is favored. If you come to public comment, he will give you either 2 minutes or 3 minutes, but if you request ahead of time, how much ahead of time, Mayor?
Even at that morning, we just have
Even
to
that
see.
morning.
She had a presentation that there's no way she could have done that in the time that we allotted her. So I'm going to work with her and bring back some other information.
Yeah, so just wanted to put that out there if people are listening, that if you want, a few more minutes, 5 minutes, 6 minutes to present something, that you can always request it and the mayor will grant it, probably. I assume you will, Mayor, if he wants, yes.
There's been a few that I've turned down. I think there was one about UFOs and stuff like that.
Oh, interesting, okay.
Tracking them, if we can track them.
Thank you.
Yeah, no, can't do that.
The Telshore Fund available for that, or? I think that's it. The last thing I just wanted to note was that, somebody came here today in regards to the veterans issue, and I think it's, if they are frustrated with our decision, they have a right to come here and tell us. I think what I was a little bit turned off by today was a comment made that you should know where your child is. That felt very victim blamey, and I don't think that, it was harsh, and I don't think that has a place here. And if you want to express your sincerest condolences, then do that genuinely, and don't add comments like that, because I think that's just so harmful to somebody who's in grief and will be in grief the rest of their life. So I just wanted to name that. And the last couple of weeks, we've been told that we don't like children, that we don't like animals, that we don't like veterans. And, I think people will say, well, you signed up for the job, you should just deal with it. And I do wonder if there's a line sometimes that gets crossed around civil discourse and what we can do to improve our communities. And so I just want to challenge people to come here with your frustrations and voice your dislike for our decisions, and do it in a way that isn't attacking our character, that isn't attacking who we are at our core. And if you have questions about what we like or dislike, to just ask us. And somebody asked, how do we get a hold of our, this is always a conversation. It's like, how do we have better civil discourse in our local government? And I reach out to us. That's really the best and simplest way. And I think that if you want something uplifted, that we can talk about it in a way that is civil. We don't have to agree. I also don't think we have to be nasty to each other. So anyway, that's it. Thanks all. Oh, and absolutely, yeah. Mayor Pro Tem said it also discourages other people from coming, and I think that's really true. I wrote Chief Dominguez a little note. I hope I can give it to someone to give it to him, but I just also wanted to express my gratitude to Chief Dominguez, who I think it's public news. I saw it on the LCPD Instagram page. So for his retirement, really congratulate him for his many, many years of service to the city. And I think he was a very kind and graceful leader. And so I just wanted to express my gratitude and congratulations to him. Thanks, Mayor.
Is there a gift card in there or just a card? Councilor Graham.
Thank you, Mayor. Sorry, I now have this mental picture of you walking off with like the Ziggy mascot costume, like various city property that you're saying, oh, this is all my stuff. Sorry, it's just a, yeah, right, a whole bus, I don't know. Yeah, sorry. Yeah, I also skipped counselor comment last time, so I do have a little more to say than usual, so buckle up, buttercups. No, I'm kidding. No, it's not harsh or anything. First and most important, the month of May was the 4 community chats that I held, and I have a lengthy thank you list for that. Foremost to the residents of District 3 and others who came out to chat. It was amazing, the opportunity to have one-on-one conversations. At one meeting, only 2 people showed up, but they stayed the entire 2 hours. One had lived in his neighborhood for 40 years. The other has been in Las Cruces for 18 months. So it was a really interesting perspective to hear someone who has seen development over decades and someone who was just being welcomed to the community. And they swapped phone numbers at the end, and they're going to hang out. And I was like, this is why I wanted to do community chats. So thank you to people who took the time to come out. Also to staff at the Munson Center who stayed late for me 4 times. And at the final community chat, I had an amazing support crew from various city departments, so big thanks to the fire department's mobile integrated health unit, to LCPD Cares, Public Works, Sustainability, and Keep Las Cruces Beautiful, who both taught me and had great interactions with folks with all kinds of questions, comments, and concerns. And most of all, to Katrina and to Seth, thank you so much, especially for being willing and able to roll with something new. Katrina, I came to you and said, I want to kind of flip the community meeting format on its head. What do you think? And you were like, sure, let's do that. And I know it was different, and you were just so graceful and made it absolutely happen, and I appreciate that so much. Yeah, I don't know, can we? Congratulations, and I'm so glad you're going to be here forever. Now it's on the record. She is official, yes. So thank you so much. So happy to have you. Speaking of awesome new things, our first boxing camp launched this week. This is the only afternoon that I will not be coaching our boxing camp. This is in partnership with NMSU. We have about 15 middle schoolers from across the city. I and other city volunteers from the fire department will be coaching them. They're learning boxing fundamentals. It was great. I asked as we were hearing, like, hey, what brought you to boxing camp? And by the 5th person, I was like, okay, pause. How many are you here because your mom said you had to get out of the house? And like almost every hand went up. I was like, okay, you're going to have a great time. So again, I think what has been such an amazing part of this job is coming with something new that the city hadn't done before, and everyone is just so accommodating and willing to roll with it. And Connie, I want to thank you personally because you have been so instrumental in helping us, get the ground building up for the boxing program. Hope you'll stop by camp sometime this week. We'll be there 2 to 5 every day. Thank you to DC Mullen. I know you kind of came in and had this thrown on your plate suddenly, but really, really appreciate you and PD's support on this. So yeah, come and I said that any city staff was fair game to, the kids can throw punches at you and practice a little bit. But no, really looking forward to continuing that. Just a kind of general comment, I'm just gonna riff a little bit here based on some emails I've received. This is a theme throughout being a counselor, but maybe a little more the last couple of weeks. And I think because of our cannabis discussion and the last work session where a citizens group brought us the idea about reducing lanes on Lohman and Amador. And it's a kind of interesting theme that I see where people will email me and say, that kind of along the lines that my decisions don't affect me, as if counselors kind of live in our own little bubble. I always think of it like, I love Hunger Games analogies. Like if you win the Hunger Games, you get to go live in the victor's village, and it's like way nicer than everywhere else. But like, I promise you, I live right in District 3 with the people for whom I am making decisions. And to speak specifically to those two topics, this is just based on my GPS watch, so I'm sure the GIS department could totally correct me. I walked from my front door to the nearest cannabis dispensary to my house. It's 358 feet, or as the mayor might say, 1.5 football fields, because I mean, like that system of measurement. I live in a mixed commercial residential zone, so I have light industrial across the street from me. I have a garage behind me. And yes, I live very close to the kind of cannabis dispensaries that I have voted several times to support and open up zoning. So for those who think that I'm making these decisions and then not being affected by them, I'm actually pretty close on that one. Same, so I live on Kansas. I'm between Solano and Espina, and that puts me about 1 block south of Lohman and smack dab in the middle of the traffic-affected neighborhoods that we were talking about during that work session. So I feel you, the businesses and the people living there. Also, Mr. Leos, I'm right by I call it the Lomador split, where Lohman and Amador split. People use my street as a cut through constantly to try to avoid traffic. So any traffic decisions that I would be contributing to in that area, I promise you I'm directly affected. And I'm sure a lot of you are also making decisions not just about your district or mayor about the whole city, but for the neighborhoods where you live. So just a little perspective on that. And then finally, I have a proposal, or I would like to, I've never done one of these. I would like us colleagues to explore a possibility, and I don't even know how we would go about it. I would like to discuss changing the order of our regular session agendas, maybe even just on a trial basis if we agreed on it. And what I am proposing is moving general public comment to the end of the meeting, right before counselor comments. Everyone's already laughing at me. And this way, I see 2 advantages to this, and this came to me particularly during the session, the last voting session, when we had a lot of public input. And I don't know if you have experienced this, but I have several times. A constituent who wants to speak on an agenda item will email me ahead of the town, say, hey, can you give me an idea of when the agenda item might come up? Because I only have an hour. I'm going to take off work. I'll take my lunch hour. And I always feel bad because I'm like, I really can't possibly estimate. And granted, you know, we never know exactly how the agenda is going to roll, but to me, the big wild card is general public comment. So today, I just threw a stopwatch on it, and it was 59 minutes. So about an hour, a pretty substantial chunk of time. And I'm in no way suggesting we take away the opportunity for people to have general public comment. I'm saying we give the advantage or the priority to folks who are coming out to comment on a specific agenda item because they have a personal investment in it. The other advantage I see, and this has kind of come up a lot, sir, you were here a couple of weeks ago, and you find yourself in that weird island where you're asking a question or hoping for our feedback, and as Mayor has pointed out, we really don't have the freedom during general public comment to be able to do that. I think putting general public comment in close, you know, in proximity to councilor comments like this, we would have that option to, you know, stick around and maybe we will, you know, we will respond. It's a little looser. So just a thought. The agenda, obviously, you know, when I first came here, I thought agendas were set in stone, and then I started serving on boards, committees, and commissions, and it's all different. SCSWA does public comment at the end. MPO has 2 public comment periods, one at the top and one at the bottom. So I think we have some leeway, and you know, just think about it. If you think it might, you know, if it might be a positive thing for the meetings. And I don't know, do you set the agenda, Mayor?
Well, let me just share some things with you real quick, and the council can change it. But so as far as the council comments, you can respond, but the reason why it's a little challenging is because if the members of the public bring up something that could be construed as policy, then that's why we can't really respond, because it hasn't been on the agenda to be voted on. And then now then it's engaging on a comment on an item that hasn't been advertised, and it's possible we're getting in that area where we could be close to violating the OMA.
Exactly.
That's why it's not good to comment. But I mean, if someone says, hey, what, you know, something that's real general in nature that doesn't pertain to any policy, that's fine. The second is, if, like what you said about someone who had to leave because they only have so much time, that's okay. In fact, I usually mention it, just saying if you have to leave for some reason, you know, let us know. That way their council doesn't respond. And because now the other thing I needed to clarify from you is, were you saying that they wanted to have discussion about an item that's on the agenda? How is that going to work? Because we can't have council start commenting unless we're on that particular item on the agenda.
No, sorry. I think I wasn't clear on that. So we would, as we always do, as you or Mayor Pro Tem, when she's chairing, during agenda items, you always invite members of the public to come out. Sometimes it's a lot, and you know, we can kind of anticipate that, sometimes not so much. But there, I think, where we're on a specific advertised agenda item, I feel like that opportunity for discussion is definitely more robust or more available. So yeah, I guess what I'm saying is just kind of flipping the order, so those who are here to comment on a specific agenda item have a little more time frame, you know, a little more predictability in how long they may need to be here to be able to make that happen. And I don't know, maybe I'm the only person who has gotten that question before, like, hey, what time do you think agenda item whatever will be? And I always just have to be like, I'm so sorry, I just don't know. Okay, thanks.
And so the challenge I see with this is if we move it, we can try it out, but the challenge I see with this is if you're saying to have public comment right before council comment, but I'm going to say, well, I have no idea where it's going to go in the agenda. But at least the public comment, the public knows it's in the beginning. It may be plus or minus 15 minutes or so, but on the back end, like to, I can kind of guess, depending on how many council members show up, how long it's going to take. But for the most part, it could take, and then of course on the agenda too. But I mean, it can go huge
No,
varieties.
absolutely feel it. And that's why I've said I'm just kind of throwing it out there. And also thinking toward when we were here, we were here till 8 p.m. and getting through the agenda. I guess I'm picturing like when I have my most of my juice, my mojo. I'm like, I want my mojo on, on these agenda items, and then leaving the other, again, keeping that door open to those who are just, who are here for general public comment, but just a thought, think it over.
Oh, no, like I said, we can try it if you'd like, but I think you're going to find more of the people who come here for public comment complaining more because they know they can get here and go if they need to. And then on the other one, they'd have to, we don't know when they're going to, we have no idea where in the agenda they're going to.
No, I understand, but I mean, I think people are going to complain no matter what we do,
okay.
So.
We'll put you out as a front person. Make sure you put ads out that you want this done, and we'll try it.
The Becky Graham model, yeah, send it to me. But no, just food for thought, and thank you so much.
Sure. Okay, Councilor Beta.
Thank you, Mayor. One thing, I guess I will switch over kind of how I have a lot of information also to share, but I get to use some of my new training. I was able to attend one of our Molly classes, which is with the Municipal League, but I went a little early to look up. They were doing a class on parliamentary procedure, and it's helpful for this discussion. But we also, in our standards of rules and procedures, we do have a structure here. So if there's any changes, this is where we would want to change it of order of business. And so it does designate the way the agenda is supposed to be set up with public participation as one of our fourth items. I'm looking to Christine, and she's saying yes, so I'm on a good track here. And we actually had in the discussion about when is it really appropriate to have, and when do people like to do public comment most often and frequently? And there was this similar debate back and forth. Is it better to have it at the very beginning or towards the end based upon what's going on? And kind of the conversation was, well, if you let people at least discuss things in the beginning, then they can leave if they need to. As we heard today, a lot of people, especially those that have other jobs, can't sit for 2 or 3 hours, especially if they're only got one small thing on the agenda. So if we're going to look at this, then I would say it's looking at this section 2.9 on how to adjust it. Okay, thank you. And then with it, lots more information on the Municipal League. I've been going to board meetings. I chaired our finance committee for the Municipal League June 2nd, where we instituted a budget for the year, increasing staffing to have more policy analysts, and to continue with our partnership with New Mexico Tech, where we are cataloging data that helps us understand taxes and what types of, any type of pyramiding or any deductions or changes with tax law. We're able to see how that affects our community. I'll use it as for example, there was a bill this year that was looking at a type of pyramiding, and we were able to pull the data from this and see that if this had been instituted, it would have been a deduction of $7 to $10 million for Las Cruces. So we're able to take a lot better estimates and closer estimates. And they're able to pull this for all the communities basically throughout the state. So it's been really helpful. On Saturday, I will be back up to Albuquerque, where I will be chairing the Community and Economic Development Policy Committee for the Municipal League. And so looking forward to that. That ideas from there will then get turned into resolutions, and in July we'll vote on the resolutions for the league. And then in August, I will switch over and we'll do a transfer of, I'll become president in August. So according to them, I will be the youngest serving female president. So it'll be, yeah. So it'll be very interesting. And then I guess I do want to chat real fast about the veterans and the comments we heard today, because I do believe that there was some large misinformation that I find very disingenuous. I talked with the chair of the board, Karen Woods, for 2 hours before this situation reached our desk. And to understand, because I think that's the first thing that we need to do, is understand what is the full issue. And you can't do that unless you sit down and talk with people. So I talked with them. I asked questions about what was appropriate, what's not, language that is used, understanding that they didn't feel like a veteran's name should be anywhere near the playground. They didn't think that was good. So that's where I also, Mayor Pro Tem, thought that this was a really wonderful compromise to be able to honor. I also heard during the session that we had and during the vote, very disingenuous, I think, comments to their fellow veterans that were newer with serving, and that maybe didn't serve in the same time frame that they did. And I feel that's really a disservice, because we have veterans that come from all different types of service, some that are out for, 1 week, 6 months, 2 years, and that's no less valid than those that served 20 years ago. And so I think some of the critiques that I heard were honestly just downright cruel. And I find that disrespectful for the other veterans. We have a process. The Veterans Board did not follow basic process and procedures. They did not follow, and it was in our packets that they made a vote during a public participation, and they did not follow Open Meetings Act. We could not vote in favor of anything that they said because they did not follow the rules. It would not have been a legal vote anyways. And so I find that, and this is why, and I know I asked for training of Open Meetings Act, and this is why, because some of the boards, this puts us in bad positions, and it puts us in situations that we don't need to be in. And it is up to chairs of boards to understand and hold those lines too when it comes to Open Meetings Act, and which is one of the reasons why I suggested us having kind of this training for individuals and definitely for board chairs, absolutely. I think that's my thought on that, but I think that we were in a very difficult spot, and I do think and feel that we made a compromise that can honor the veteran whose child tragically passed at a park where he was supposed to be celebrating and honoring and observing. And so I do believe that we made the best choice possible and the legal choice that we had to. Next up, we do have we have an oversight meeting tomorrow, also a meeting for Juvenile Justice Continuum. There is a MVITA board retreat on June 28th where we will be doing strategic planning. I believe Mayor Pro Tem, you will also be joining for that. And I think that is about it. So thank you very much, Mayor.
Thank you.
Sorry, can I jump back in?
Sure.
Not realizing that it was going to take a whole charter overhaul, so I will withdraw my suggestion. So keep it, but it was just a thought. And thank you to people who have reached out and, asked for better timing. I'll do my best.
Okay, thank you. So, Councilor Abeyta, thank you for your comments. I was just going to say that, the Veterans Advisory Board is just that. It's an advisory board. I mean, they can pass the resolutions or the motions that they'd like, but ultimately, you and our colleagues, we make those decisions. I thought, as you did, I thought that was a compromise. I mean, you have a young child that was killed there, and I hope that's the first and last time. And so, and who knows, there could be a time where some young families are reading about this child, and it'll, when kids are that small, they move so fast. And I mean, you wouldn't blink of an eye. And so it's just a constant reminder of just difficult. It's really challenging. So I'm good with it. I think it was the right thing to do. And like I said, I hope it's the first and last that we ever have to do there again. So with that, I'll turn it over to Ikani for our city manager's report.
Thank you, Mayor Miyagishima and City Council. Ikani Tamopiao, Assistant City Manager. For the record, I am here in place of Ifo Pili, who will be here next week. So thank you for your time. Just a few updates from Parks and Rec for the Electric Light Parade, which is happening on Monday, July 3rd. The title and the theme is Red, White, and Boom. Red, white, and boom. Yes. So there's still time to sign up for this parade. It's an awesome event. So if you're interested, for those listening online, please call 575-541-2454 to sign up for more information. Also, Music in the Park. This past Sunday, approximately 1,100 attended Music in the Park. It's a lot. And this past Sunday in Young Park, and this will continue throughout summer on Sunday evenings. Next up, for this Sunday on June 25th, Steppin' Up, playing various style of music, and Low Fat. I hope that's how you, Lophat, Low Fat. Okay, so come check them out, evenings at Young Park on Sundays. From the airport, just a quick update, air passenger service. This was the first month that they surpassed 50% load factor. First time. This is great. They've been trending at 40%. In April, they were exactly 40%. In May, they hit 56%. That number equates to 284 total passengers in May. So exciting information from our air passenger service occurring there. Andy's doing a great job. And VLC, we all heard the announcement a few weeks ago. Some of us attended the very bold and audacious tagline,
The real New Mexico.
the real New Mexico, right? Las Cruces. So what some of us may not remember when we talk about taglines, these are very important. I think we all understand how important taglines are, but especially for the tourism tagline, even more important because that's our branding. Does anyone remember the previous taglines that VLC had and how, does anyone, not even a guess? Okay.
Wait, was this for the city or just Visit Us?
For VLC, for tourism.
I only remember
tourism
like
taglines.
Mountains of Opportunity.
You know, that was more on the CLC staff side.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
sorry.
But on the tourism side, and this is how important branding is because now we can say the real New Mexico. Tourism has around the nation just explore, experience, discover. That was trending around the nation. That was ours a few years back. Stay Sunny was ours a few years back. And the Crossroads was ours a few years back. The Crossroads.
But explore?
There was three, explore, experience, and discover.
Yeah, but explore T-shirts are all over the U.S.
Yeah.
Explore New York. Explore
Exactly. And so that was trending a few years ago, but I bring that up as a point that this one will be a memorable tagline moving forward, the real New Mexico. We'll remember it when it happens. So I just want to thank the VLC team and Rochelle and her team doing a great job. New website, a new look on the social media side. Everything is new branding. So if you look at it, it's been hard work for about a year and a half of just working with consultants and working with their team to just make it right.
Apropos of that, would it be possible to get screen time at airports? Like some airports feature different cities to fly to, and it'd be great, especially like LaGuardia. Oh, visit Las Cruces, the real New Mexico.
Great idea. VLC is actually already looking, Rochelle and her team are already looking at that. We didn't look quite at LaGuardia in New York, but they have looked at local ones in Tucson, so we can add that to the list.
Well, yeah, any airport.
Yeah.
I mean, we have flown there. So.
Yeah, for sure.
JFK is international. I don't think any of us except me is international.
But we'll have the team look into it and see if we can afford those airports. Okay. And just a last thing, Spaceport America Cup, which is the largest intercollegiate rocket engineering competition in the universe, is happening this week through Saturday. So 1,200 students, 110 institutions, and exciting news happening. So thank you, Mayor, Council.
Thanks, Ikani, but forgive me for kind of correcting you, unless I was told wrong, because I was there this morning. It's 1,700 students and almost 120 teams. And let me tell you something, they're from all over the world, from India, New Zealand. It's incredible. Yeah, I mean, it's, and these rockets can go some as high as 20, 30,000 feet. Not like the ones, like I told them, when I was in school, we would take well, hey, you're not that far, you're not that. So the container from the paper towels, and that's what we use for rocket, to build our rocket thing. And wow, those rockets over there are incredible. So
Sounds like we could have used that UFO presentation.
yeah. Okay, sure.
This is for Chief. Jason
Chief, sir.
Smith. Yes. No. So I don't know about the rest of the people in this room, but I think it was Sunday night. There was these really loud booms. Yeah, it was Sunday night. It was horribly loud and like nothing I've heard before. When I went on my morning walk with Edie, I found these huge, like hard cardboard, and I picked it up, smelled it, and it was definitely a firework. And so we're now getting calls and complaints about that, but this is my complaint, so it has to count a little bit more, Chief. No, is there any, yeah, right. So I think that, golly, has there been any, like, because fireworks are coming out, and is there anything that we're doing? Because I did get a call or two about it. Thank you.
Mayor, Councilor Flores, Fire Chief Jason Smith for the record. We sent to the city manager's office our fire marshal's plan of what we're going to do for kind of deterring illegal fireworks use. And so we're also having a plan to enforce the code on the 4th of July. So we can send that information from the city clerk's office and the CMO office about our deployment plan. I could speak a little bit to it now if you want to hear it now. We're looking at putting flyers in the utility bills. So the city utility this past billing cycle started sending out information on what is legal and illegal within the city of Las Cruces. We're going to be getting a billboard spot, again, kind of outlining the same information, as well as putting up some temporary road signs, electrical signs leading into where aerial fireworks are sold in the area, where they're sold legally, letting people know that within the city of Las Cruces, aerial devices and firecrackers have been prohibited, and they're illegal to possess and use. You're welcome.
Thanks, Chief. Okay, anything else, Connie?
No, that's it, Mayor and Council. Thank you.
All right, if that's the case, entertain motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn. Second.
Motion made by Councilor Bencomo, second by Councilor Abeyta. Christine?
This is on the motion to adjourn the meeting. Councilor Abeyta?
Yes.
Councilor Graham?
Yes.
Councilor Bencomo?
Yes.
Councilor Coran?
Yes.
Councilor Flores?
Yes.
Councilor Gondeta?
Yes.
Mayor?
Yes. Okay, we're adjourned. It's 4:47 p.m. Thank you. Have a good rest of the day.